Welcome to the program here. Our number for you is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio with you here tonight, you've got me, Ian.
Bonnie.
And Aria.
So there is something very interesting and unusual in the news today. There's also another story that Bonnie's got for later on about this guy from, what was the group again?
The Proud Boys.
The Proud Boys. You've heard a thing or two about the Proud Boys.
Oh, yeah, the Enrique guy being an informant?
Yeah.
Not surprised.
Looks like their top dog was actually a government agent. Or at least an informant, which is what's the difference.
Let's pretend to be surprised.
So we can talk about that a little bit later. But first, this GameStop story. I saw.
It's amazing.
It took me a little while to, I looked at a couple of stories about this, and one of them was, the first time I saw it was, there was like a Bitcoin news agency that was reporting this as though it were some sort of Bitcoin related thing. And I guess some guy who was analyzing this situation we're about to tell you about said that this is good. It's good news for Bitcoin because it shows decentralization is powerful. I'm not sure what this really has to do with Bitcoin, except for the fact that there was a group of people that were sort of outside of the system who are now screwing over the system. I mean, maybe that's the only similarity.
I think I can explain what he was getting at, but we have to actually get into what's going on with GameStop beforehand.
So I've got a story here that is supposed to be a pretty good overview from RT, that is Russia Today. And, you always got to go to Russia Today when you want a good perspective that's not going to fillet the American government.
Yes, they fillet the Russian government.
Yeah, you just got to know. You got to know what you're getting into. So here it is. The NASDAQ has paused trading.
Really?
Yes. Oh, yeah. The system is not happy about what happened with this GameStop thing.
Well, good.
Yeah.
The system needs to die.
And after, apparently they did it after internet, quote, degenerates, unquote.
Who called them that?
We'll find out. Spotted Wall Street gearing up to make a killing, beat the traders at their own game, and got filthy rich while destroying the U.S.'s top hedge funds. So, the story here, NASDAQ CEO Adina Friedman announced Wednesday morning, speaking to CNBC, quote, "We're actively monitoring social media chatter and will halt stock if we match chatter with unusual activity in stocks."
Oh, no, that's not the way this works, dude. Or chick.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You don't just get to say, oh, no, we don't want to allow these sells and pause trading.
Why don't they? It's their system.
Well, sure, right. But that's all the more reason the system needs to die. Yeah. I don't know what NASDAQ is. I don't know anything about it, but
it's some kind of fancy stock thing where there's like the fancier stocks or like the more expensive stocks or whatever are in this thing. That's about all I know.
So it's sort of like an aggregate?
I think.
Wow, I thought that was all stocks.
You know what? I don't. You're probably dealing with three people who don't know anything about stocks whatsoever. Like, I was explaining this to Calvin, one of my tenants here, and I was telling him that I never heard of this hedge fund thing, and he already knew all about hedge funds, so I didn't have to explain to him what that was. But we're going to get into whatever a hedge fund is.
I had heard the term before, but it had never occurred to me to look into what it is because
me either.
There are better ways to invest your money than in the stock market. You should diversify, sure, but cryptocurrency has proven to be a much better investment.
Well, yeah, and we should get into that as well. Like, why is cryptocurrency more interesting to us than stocks?
Because they can't pause the trading on it, for one. They can just oh no, you're ballooning the price of Dogecoin. We're ceasing all Dogecoin trading. Because I can be like, look, I'll sell you some Dogecoin.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no centralized control over cryptocurrency like there is with the stock market. So kudos to these guys in this Reddit group, which we'll get into, for being able to screw with the system as much as they have before they could put the clamp down on, right?
Because the system seems to be having a meltdown. I didn't know about the trading being paused, but I've seen the reaction from these hedge fund billionaires and millionaires, and they are upset.
Because apparently they lost a lot of money today or something like that.
Oh,
so
poor guys.
So the boss lady over at, or whoever over at NASDAQ, says that she's demanding regulators intervene to stop the, quote, manipulation, unquote, that sees amateur investors completely leave one of America's top hedge funds, Melvin Capital, teetering on the edge of bankruptcy.
That's such BS. These hedge funds manipulate the market all the time. Short selling is a way of manipulating the market.
Now, what is short selling?
It's when you borrow a stock on the basis that it's going to go down in value, and then you sell it when it goes down in value, and you repay the loan for the stock, and you pocket the profit.
Isn't that what the hedge fund people do?
Yes.
I thought they
and that's how they've lost money.
No,
here.
I think what they do is you missed a step, or you confused a step. From what they're going to tell us here in RT is they borrow the stock and immediately sell it. And then they rebuy it later when they expect that it's going to go down, and they make the difference in the price. Then they give the stock back to the person they borrowed it from.
Okay.
Yeah. As trading opened, Friedman kept her word, and the buying and selling of GameStop stock was halted intermittently throughout the morning. Also, from what I've seen, they're also halting AMC, the movie chain.
Yes, because the Reddit people who organized this against GameStop went through and they're like, hey, this was really successful. Here are these other over-shorted funds that we can do this to.
Is all of NASDAQ paused or just GameStop's part?
Good question. It sounds like the whole thing might be paused, but that is an excellent question. In a bid to stave off the manipulation, she said, but what was it about one failing video games retail company that sparked the panic on Wall Street, asks RT. A fixture in American shopping malls, GameStop once held launch night parties for the biggest annual video game releases. But it's seen its business fall off a cliff in recent years due to digital purchasing and the decline of malls nationwide. Enter the short sellers. Put simply, hedge funds looking to capitalize on failing businesses can borrow shares in a company, immediately sell them, and ideally buy them back later at a lower price to pay back the original lender while pocketing the difference. Should the price rise, however, instead of fall, these funds have to pay back the shares at the new higher price. Now, what's not clear...
For perspective on this, the price of a single share of GameStop last year, I think in August, was like $3.
Oh yeah, this thing has been GameStop, and I'm not a stock person, right? Like I don't spend any time following stocks, but I happen to know that GameStop was doing bad because I watched this video game podcast on
some
occasion.
of the new consoles don't even have disk drives.
Right.
I mean, Microsoft and Sony have been trying to get away from used games forever.
Is that right?
That's why they started with launch day DLC and crap like that on disc
to
DLC.
Encourage people to move to downloadable.
Yeah, or to just buy the game
options.
directly. I mean, they don't want two people to be able to play the same game.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to have to buy another copy for the second person.
Oh, so you can't share the game in that way.
That's greedy.
Yeah.
And they think you're stealing from them. If you sell the game to GameStop and someone comes along and buys it later, they're like, "Oh, you stole from us." Now two people got to, but there's still only one copy of the game in circulation, right? It doesn't matter if I let my nephew play one of my video games. I'm not stealing from them. I don't have to buy a second copy.
Apparently, it matters to them.
Yeah, well, they're idiots who believe in intellectual property.
That's a great point. So the thing that I'm not clear on, and if you're like one of these stock expert types and you can answer this question, is at what point when the stock price goes up, do they have to repurchase it and give it back to the original lender? Is it like immediately, or is it within a certain percentage, or is it, how do they figure that out? Because the stock price has been shooting up on GameStop because of this, activity by this Reddit group.
From one of these stories that I saw, they pretty much should do it immediately, because if they don't, the price could just continue climbing and they're going to lose out. But I don't think there's an actual hard limit. And that's sort of what the issue here is that so much of these people on Reddit control the GameStop stock. Mm-hmm. And they're refusing to sell it to these hedge fund people. They're like, no, we're not letting you buy this.
Oh,
and that's
wait a minute.
That's creating a feedback cycle that is just driving the price higher and higher and higher.
Hold on. You're saying the buyers on Reddit.
The people who have the GameStop shares.
Right. They're buying a ton of these shares, presumably the ones that were originally being sold by these very hedge funds or whatever. And then when the hedge funds go to buy it back, there's like a dearth of availability. There's not very many in the market for sale at all.
Right. And the longer they hold out on selling, the higher the price is going to get. Until eventually they will be like, okay, you know what? We're at $3,000 a share. Sure. I'll sell you my shares.
And isn't it at hundreds of dollars right now?
I think it's about $300 right now, yeah.
So it's gone up like 100 times, 100-fold
basically? Increases, yeah.
That's incredible.
It's absolutely remarkable. And the longer they hold out, the bigger that number is going to get.
Right. And no one could have seen this coming, because everybody else, if you're looking at buying a stock, you don't look at GameStop because it's garbage. The company is going to die. It's just, the question is, when are they going to close their doors? More coming up here. 603-283-6160. If you've been following this, let us know.
Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive, and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by DJ Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Bane Books at banebooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. D-I-V-I project.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
The easiest thing in the world for a reader to do is to stop reading, according to the late, great Barney Kilgore, who became managing editor of the Wall Street Journal in 1941 and grew the paper's circulation from 33,000 to 1 million by the 60s. And he'd be pleased to know that his paper is one of the few that people now pay to read online. Someone else pre-internet who realized that attention is fragile? Motown Records founder Berry Gordy. In the early 60s, when his label dominated the charts, he'd bring a dozen real people into the Hitsville, USA studios and audition songs. And he'd ask, if you were down to your last dollar, would you spend it on this record or would you buy a sandwich? Today, attention span seems like an oxymoron. For tips on cutting through the clutter, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Yep, it's Free Talk Live. We're talking about this really wild story. And normally, stock market, I'm not interested in talking about at all. Like, to me, that's
Same.
one of the most boring topics you can possibly discuss. But not today. No, today it's become very, very interesting, where apparently a Reddit group, which is, what is it, /r, do you remember what it is, Arya?
I don't, but I can
Wall
look it up.
Street Bets.
Yeah.
Wall Street Bets all run together. And they have been playing a little game with these.
They've been playing it very well.
Yes, with these hedge fund people. Now, hedge fund people are like old school, old money stock trader types, right? These people have been working this.
These are the ones that have been saying Bitcoin is a fad, Bitcoin is dead.
Oh, they say that stuff too?
I'm sure they do.
Well,
it's the same type of person anyway. You know, this big suit, big wig, smoking a cigar in a back office, doing cocaine.
Yeah. Making tons of money. Yep. Because they know
putting mom and pop places out of business.
Yeah, and they know the way the system works, or at least the way it has worked until this point. Because the average person didn't have the ability to, prior to the internet, communicate in an effective, efficient manner and to organize themselves in a way that, they'd never been able to do before.
There was something else they couldn't do before either, buy stocks directly. They had to go through investment firms and things like that if the average person wanted to buy shares of something. Now you can use Acorns or Scottrade or Robinhood or one of these other apps to just buy the stocks directly and cut out those investment firms.
Oh, interesting.
So this wasn't even possible 10 years ago. This couldn't have been done.
Oh, wow.
But the world is changing rapidly, and it sounds like these hedge fund guys didn't think that could ever happen.
Oh, yeah. They're getting left behind in the dust.
By internet degenerates.
That's what they're calling them here. We'll get to more of the story here, but also want to tell you about Bitcoin.com. If you go there, you will learn about the other thing that's way more interesting than stocks, and at least in the case of Bitcoin, has been pretty profitable over the last decade. You can go to Bitcoin.com and learn about Bitcoin. Learn about Bitcoin Cash as well, because there's more than just the original Bitcoin out there, and you need to if you're going to get into it, you should at least learn the fact that there are other options out there besides Bitcoin. And they'll teach you about that over at Bitcoin.com. Just click on Get Started at the top of the page there. And once again, that's Bitcoin.com. So let me continue here with this RT story, explaining what's going on. So I'm going to just re-explain what a hedge fund is, because again, I don't know anything about this stock stuff, and it's important to kind of get this concept. So hedge funds are looking to make money on businesses that are failing. And the way they do that is they borrow shares in a company from people who are willing to lend them. And I guess the reason why somebody would take this risk is because they could make more later on if the price goes up. But anyway, for whatever reason, people are giving them their stocks. They're borrowing these stocks somehow. And then they, according to the story here at RT...
Well, I guess for the person loaning the stock, it's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to get their money back at some point. Either because they sell... immediately and can just call that back in, or because the price goes up and then they get back more, or the price goes down and they still get back the original cost of the stock.
Do they get back the money or they get the stock back? Don't they just get the stock back?
I do not know.
Yeah, see, there's still a few questions I have about how this works, but either way, the company, so they borrow these stocks, they immediately sell them at whatever the current price is, and then later, because they're expecting the stocks are going to go down in price, when the stocks go down in price, they buy them back. And then they give them back to whoever they borrowed them from, presumably, at that point.
It sounds like a market research failure on the part of these companies that were shorting or expecting the price of GameStop to go down from $3, because they just put a new board member on who is just your average person who bought 13% of GameStop shares and went in to shake the company up, saying, hey, why don't you transition to online services? We should be competing with Amazon. Get this old school stuff that doesn't work anymore out of your brains, and let's focus on this new direction. And GameStop has been working on that. So,
yeah,
and a lot of people,
it's probably too little, too late. I mean, honestly. You think these old dinosaurs at GameStop are going to be able to come back from the brink of extinction?
Well, look at what happened with GameFly. I mean,
what is that?
It was a game rental service very similar to the original Netflix style.
Okay.
Like, you're probably the only person.
Ship you a game.
You'd rent a game from them. They'd ship it to you. You could keep it as long as you want, and then send it back, and they'd send you a new game.
Yeah, sure.
Just like Netflix.
Did they go under?
I think they did. But the idea is still there for people to take advantage of and for people to use if they want to.
But it's not working, right? So that's why they went out of business.
Well, has GameStop tried it? Maybe they were mismanaged.
Could be. I mean, they've definitely been poorly managed. But so should the price rise instead of the fall, the funds would then have to pay back the shares at the new higher price. Well, these guys didn't expect GameStop's price to rise at all. And it's understandable. It seemed like they were just going to spiral down the drain until they went out of business. But the reverse happened. Profiting off a failing business may seem either a canny move or the epitome of vulture capitalism, but it's a common practice. Wall Street's top investing firms even help each other identify stocks ripe for the picking, as Citron Research did when it deemed GameStop a, quote, failing mall-based retailer in terminal decline. Citron Research and Melvin Capital both bought tens of millions of dollars worth of short positions in GameStop, but soon learned the hard way that in short selling, there's no end to the amount of money one can lose. The 2 million members of Reddit's Wall Street Bets community took an interest in GameStop back in August when they noticed the arrival of pet supply e-tailer Chewy's co-founder Ryan Cohen to its board, signaling there was some life in the company yet. When they noticed the Melvin Capital and Citron had bought the stock short, so I guess you can just find out who's putting these short purchases in?
Presumably, if you care to, I guess.
They decided to start buying, pumping up its value, partly to make a buck and partly to punish the hedge funds for profiting off the death spiral of a store ingrained in their childhood memories. Wow. So they specifically were able to identify who was trying to do this short selling, and they knew exactly who they would be able to punish. That's interesting.
I mean, would it matter who it was if they were trying to just punish whoever it was responsible?
Throughout January, GameStop's value shot up from $18 per share to $347 as of today.
Jesus Christ.
As hedge fund managers...
And let's keep in mind, let's see, what does that increase?
It's a lot. I mean...
I'm just going to lowball it and say it's a, 1,000% increase. It's obviously higher than that. But this company invested tens of millions of dollars in short selling this. Mm-hmm. Multiply that by 1,000, and that's pretty much the loss that they're faced with right now. And I love everything about that.
As hedge fund managers whined and raged on television and Twitter, the Wall Street Bets community dug their heels in and continued to buy. Both funds took a beating, with rumors of Melvin Capital's bankruptcy circulating yesterday. Melvin's manager, Gabe Plotkin, told CNBC the rumors are false, but the fund still needed a bailout of nearly $3 billion to cover its losses before it closed its position that afternoon. Now, when it says a bailout...
That means they went bankrupt.
Uh-huh.
But did the government give them money?
That's what I'm wondering. Are they actually asking the government to bail them out from making a huge investment mistake?
They should just die.
And I'm sure the government will. The government bailed out the banks in 2007.
Sure, but are hedge fund managers considered as important to government agencies as the bankers are? I'm going to say they probably aren't. I mean, essentially...
Depends on how much they contribute to their political campaigns.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But generally, I mean, a hedge fund, they're just gamblers, right? Like, that's all they're doing. They're just gambling based on research, but... That's it. Whereas banks are more directly tied into the state, right? The banks are essentially sort of part of the Federal Reserve System. 603-283-6160.
Maxwell, he was a runaway to rescue, great disposition. About 9 years ago, he was scratching a lot, and he started losing some hair. My vet, she says, he must be allergic to the chicken. Another vet said, it's the grain. Third vet, she says it's the weather, something in the air. And then somebody said, DINOVITE.com. I have been listening to the Dynavite ads, hearing about different stories of different people, and it just clicked. I got my first 90-day supply, and it took a grand total of 2 weeks. And the dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out.
Dynavite is nutrition.
And Maxwell loves it. Now he's close to 10, and the Dynavite's a big part of Maxwell's diet.
Dynavite for life. You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
And he's a spectacular dog.
DINOVITE.com.
Free Talk Live.
I actually tried to delete my own Facebook. It only lasted 2 days. I couldn't get off it. It was tough. They won't delete it. They want you to come back. They know you're going to come back because it's like a drug. They know you're coming back for it. They're crazy like that.
Some people I went to grad school with, they would give their password to somebody else and tell them to change it so they couldn't log it back on and give it to them after finals were over.
My problem is my password is after my dog's name, Buster, so I actually name all my passwords that.
So what's your
what I'm saying is...
But what's your username?
He's my little bub.
Okay, but you could give someone...
He's very nice.
Okay, so
everybody loves Buster.
just want to say thank you for redeeming this.
You might want to go change all your passwords now.
Yeah, she's suggesting that you...
Buster, I use capital letters and numbers.
Okay, but...
Great call, man. Thanks for making it. I appreciate it.
I hope that was fake.
Thank God. Of course it was. It was hilarious.
What are you talking about? Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up at any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM. Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and you're invited if you want to join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And especially if you've been following this absolutely fascinating GameStop situation. I didn't think we would be talking about GameStop except to talk about how they're likely going out of business. But now their fortunes have changed all of a sudden because, well, some people who grew up with GameStop, presumably the younger users of a Reddit group calling themselves Wall Street Bets, I believe it is. Wall Street Bets decided to focus on purchasing up GameStop stocks, which are, just cheap as hell as of just a few weeks ago.
Yeah. And
they saw the price balloon up in just this month, in just the last, 4 weeks. The price has gone up from $18 per share to $347 earlier today.
I just can't imagine why anyone has any sort of nostalgia for GameStop.
Well,
they ripped us all off every time we sold them used games. I mean, what? Let them die, dude. They gave you 7 cents for your brand new copy of Call of Duty 5 because you played it for 2.5 minutes.
I was wondering, is it a bad thing that GameStop doesn't die because, the market wants it to die?
Well, apparently the market wants it to live.
I don't know how much this is actually going to help GameStop, though. Do you?
Well, it's increased the value of their shares tremendously. At the very least, it'll put off their death for some amount of time. If does
GameStop get any of this money?
If they're holding their own shares and they sell them,
fair point.
Then yeah, they would, right?
Well, we know one of the board members is holding at least 13% of the shares.
Yeah. So we'll get deeper into this story here because again, it's just absolutely fascinating. And apparently, there's a couple of these old money hedge funds companies that are basically going to go out of business, or at least that's what people believe is going to happen. They are taking a beating on this, and so maybe they don't love GameStop, but they like it better than they like hedge fund managers.
Okay,
You know?
that's fair. Between the two, I would also pick GameStop.
Right. At least you got something from GameStop at some point in your life,
that's
right? So let's go to your phone calls and thoughts here. It's Ian, Bonnie, and Aria in the studio tonight. Mike is in Wisconsin. You're first up. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I'm curious, do you guys know any VPNs that are like free? Or do you actually have to pay for like a good quality one?
You say VPN?
VPN, yeah,
Okay.
virtual private network. For listeners that don't know, how would you define what that is, Aria, a VPN?
It encrypts it may encrypt. Some of them encrypt. I don't think they encrypt by default, but it encrypts your communications over the internet to a specific server that a bunch of other people are using, which makes it impossible for ISPs to figure out what you're doing with your internet.
It kind of makes it so you can look like you're coming from a different place on the internet as well.
Yeah.
So you can sort of masquerade as though you're in Singapore or you're in, somewhere in Europe or whatever. They have these different locations around the globe. Lots of these VPNs do. Now, what you get for free, I don't know. It's been a while since I've looked for a free
I would
VPN.
suggest Windscribe. They give you 10 gigabytes per month for free, which isn't really a lot. The average user will probably fly through that fairly quickly. But their paid version is also like $40 a year.
Okay.
And they take cryptocurrency.
Our friend and co-host on Friday nights, Mr. Penguin, a.k.a. Chris Wade from thinkpenguin.com, they have their own Penguin VPN service as well. It's not free, but they do offer it, and obviously they're super privacy nuts. So, I mean, if you want a VPN service run by absolute nuts about privacy, then I would say Penguin VPN would be a good choice, and they also take cryptocurrency for that. So, Mike, I hope that helps. Any other thoughts you want to share?
You said that was Windscribe?
Yes. Fun fact, they do have a Facebook page, but the only thing there is a single post that says, if you're reading this, you don't take privacy seriously enough.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's what I kind of figured.
Cool.
In the marketplace, you get what you pay for, and for paying nothing, you probably won't get much.
Thanks, Mike, for your call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you.
Well, it restricts your server access, I think, to just the ones in the United States.
Okay. So if you want international, you got to pay.
I think. I'm not 100% sure because I've been using the paid version for so long. Because, $45 a year.
It's worth it.
Every January, just send them some Bitcoin Cash and I'm good to go.
Boom.
Just continue on.
603-283-6160. So let's get back into this GameStop thing where this Reddit community, Wall Street Bets, decided they were going to get in and support GameStop and try to take down these hedge fund. So apparently, and again, I don't know enough about how all this stuff works, but apparently you can identify the fact that short positions exist on a stock. Now, how you go about doing that, I don't know, but they did identify that. So in theory, that would mean anywhere they can go look at these different failing businesses like AMC Theaters and see, these hedge funds have put a bunch of short sells on this, and so they just go in and start buying it up.
I would love to see them do the same thing with AMC because AMC was dying. The movie industry, the theater industry is dead. AMC was obviously going to go down in value, right?
And then 2020 happened.
Yeah.
I worked in a movie theater and I want them to die.
All movie theaters?
Yes.
Oh.
So I can imagine that, a lot of these hedge funds did short sell a ton of AMC stock. If they're losing billions on GameStop, they might lose tens of billions on AMC.
Well, and that's another thing about this is the story here says that, there's like no limit to the amount of money these people can lose, which is interesting. And they kind of explain that. So again, 2 million people are in this Reddit, this Wall Street Bets. Now, how many of them actually made the purchases? I don't know, but obviously some large chunk of them did. Both funds took a beating. And now they're wanting a bailout of nearly $3 billion to cover its losses as of Wednesday. This is according to Melvin Capital. Citron's Andrew...
But that will only cover their losses if they can buy $3 billion worth of GameStop stock.
And that they can't do if people aren't willing to sell it.
And that's why the losses are infinite.
That's really interesting. So Citron's Andrew Left said Wednesday he had managed to close his position at a loss of 100%. with short sellers down $6 billion as of Tuesday. The self-described degenerates. So that's who.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
I like them better now.
Wall Street Bets posted screenshots of their ballooning bank balances, revealing in their, which means that some of them are selling, reveling in their newfound wealth as Wall Street suffers. One poster reportedly turned $55,000 into $13 million, while another posted a screenshot of his $64,000 gain, announcing, quote, "I can now write my mom a check and put my sister through Lyme disease treatment. This has been a very rough year, but I'm so thankful for every single one of you. Life-changing money is turning into destiny-changing money," another wrote on Tuesday night. Wow.
The government can't have regular people making that much money.
No, and that's why they're stepping in. At least not the government is stepping in, but Wall Street is stepping in. NASDAQ freezing trading today. Now, we aren't sure whether they froze the entire stock exchange or if they just froze, AMC and Gamestop. But if you know more and you want to weigh in here, 603-283-6160. As the titans of Wall Street seethed, and again, this is RT.com reporting, investor Michael Burry, who made a fortune on the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis, said in a now deleted tweet on Tuesday that trading in GameStop is, quote, unnatural, insane, and dangerous, and that there should be, quote, legal and regulatory repercussions.
I love how RT points out that this guy was one of the causes of the housing crisis in 2007 and 2008, leading to the Great Recession, and he's out on Twitter bitching about losing at his own game.
One of the activists here, for lack of a better term, William Legate, writes on his Twitter, quote, "What we're witnessing isn't a traditional pump and dump. It's an unorganized yet collective effort of meme lords and average Americans to completely ignore all market fundamentals and, through the power of social media, bankrupt hedge funds overnight, taking their funds. Legality unclear. Reddit is also in the process of memifying AMC stock to revive it from the dead, which is cheap right now. This is like the Occupy Wall Street.
Sounds like I need to go online and buy some AMC
Buy some
stock.
AMC, right? If it's not frozen, and that's the question. Are they actually freezing these purchases? What is going on with that? We'll have to check that out. But he says this is like the Occupy Wall Street movement, but on their own turf with real financial consequences. Incredible, he says. Despite Burry's call for punishment and Friedman's fretting over manipulation, Friedman again is the CEO of NASDAQ, the amateur investors of Wall Street Bets aren't actually breaking the law, according to RT. Their forum posts are considered free speech under the First Amendment rather than illegal attempts to dupe investors. We'll tell you more about this. It's absolutely fascinating. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. The LRN.FM's social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Want to accept Bitcoin at your online store? There's a good chance you already have what you need: a WordPress using WooCommerce and a Bitcoin address. Now all you need to start taking Bitcoin payments on your website is the AnyPay app on your Android or iPhone. Just paste your Bitcoin address into AnyPay, then connect it to your website with our one-click plugin for WordPress. Now your website takes Bitcoin, start to finish in 15 minutes or less with no complicated steps. Download AnyPay from the App Store today.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. The number here is 603-283-6160. I was just reviewing our chat room. Somebody claims that their Reddit's been shut down. That's not true. Reddit.com/r/Wall Street Bets is still there.
It would be distressing to find out that Reddit had shut down their subreddit.
And apparently there's now 3.6 million degenerates. It shows that on this, like in the area where Reddit shows you about the community, and it shows you the number of people. Below that, it actually says degenerates.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So their numbers, again, this RT story we're sharing with you said there were 2 million, which means their numbers have gone up significantly in this subreddit since the story started to break over the last 24 hours. This is huge.
It's an awesome story.
Yeah.
And it's a good idea. And we're both now looking at Robinhood and AMC because that seems to be their next target.
Yeah, if they're going after AMC next. I mean, again, what is NASDAQ going to do? I mean, they can't close their entire operation, right? Are they going to ban Robinhood from making stock trades? What is it that they're going to do about this?
So, I don't know. I mean, the reality of the situation is that they've already lost this war. If they were going to kill Robinhood, they would have had to have done it, a decade ago. If they were going to kill Acorns, those ships have already sailed, and now the average person can do this.
And what is happening, for those that don't know, those just tuning in, is a bunch of people on a subreddit called Wall Street Bets, have been organizing to purchase failing stocks like GameStop. And ultimately, that kills these hedge fund companies, these big Wall Street companies that have been around for however many decades and have been making buku bucks off of people, to kill these companies, like literally overnight or darn close to it. According to the story at RT, despite, again, there's been a call for punishment, of course, from the hedge fund managers, and then the NASDAQ CEO claiming that the stock is being, quote, manipulated. The amateur investors aren't actually breaking the law, according to RT.com. Their posts are considered free speech rather than illegal attempts to dupe investors.
Well, they're not duping anyone.
No, they're buying the stock.
Buying and selling stock manipulates the price of stocks. I mean, if you're doing anything in the stock market, you're manipulating the market.
There's been an awakening, says financial advisor Tim Collins. He says further, a large group of retail traders have realized if they work together, they can overpower any institution or short seller in the world, outside of the Fed, of course. One Reddit poster...
Oh, no, we can overpower that one too, just not with the stock market.
Right, not through the system.
For that one, we need cryptocurrency.
Another Reddit poster put it more bluntly, quote, what I think is happening is that you guys are making such an impact that these fat cats are worried that they have to get up and put in work to earn a living. Tim Pool, who was actually a podcaster who talked about you during your campaign, Aria, when you were running for sheriff, says on his Twitter, people finally realized pitchforks weren't working and used dollars to F over Wall Street elites.
Nice.
Did he say nice stuff about Arya?
Yeah, he was very complimentary towards Arya. Now, he hasn't had Arya on his show yet, which would be nice, but maybe someday. Glenn Greenwald weighing in here, saying the GameStop Reddit Melvin episode is one of the most amazing events in a while. Read this great thread to understand the significance. And then he links over to this William Legate in his post. So they're talking about this Melvin hedge fund company being way down on this. According to the math that one of these Wall Street Bets guys did, as of January 22nd's close, Melvin was down 30%. They had 13.1...
That is music to my ears, man.
They had 13.1 billion AUM. I don't know what that is. As of March 2020, that's a loss of $3.9 billion as of January 22nd. During this time, GameStop increased almost $47, aka for every $12 increase in GameStop price, Melvin loses $1 billion.
Oh my God.
Nice.
GameStop's price is right as I'm writing this 103.46, and that's now over 300 something. So this post is from whenever it was, a few days ago. So as of that time, Melvin had lost another $3.2 billion. When GameStop hits over $175, it will be game effing over for Melvin with a 100% loss. They cannot restart. Another poster says, Redditors have done more to hurt Wall Street in 2 weeks than Occupy Wall Street, the Democratic Socialists of America, and the Bernie Sanders presidential campaigns were able to do in a decade. All with a little bit of coordination and an internet post.
Does it tell you how many investors are in Melvin? Because there's like 2 million of the Redditors. Is there more Redditors than the Melvin investors?
I don't know if do hedge fund companies have investors, or are they just like privately managed companies with a bunch of money at their disposal that are trying to place bets on what they think the market's going to do? Mm-hmm. That would be a question it's a good question, Bonnie, and unfortunately Aria and I don't know what we're talking about when it comes to these things. Like, we're pretty amateur.
No idea.
Like, I've only ever bought like a handful of stocks in my entire lifetime. So I absolutely have near to zero experience with this stuff.
And when I do, it's usually through something like Acorns or through a 401k where, I pick up like a bucket of different stocks. I have no idea what actual stocks are in those things.
Right.
But it's like, hey, these are a bunch of tech stocks, whatever.
Yeah. When I got Robinhood, just to play around, it was the first time I'd ever done anything with like buying a stock in 20 years, I think. So I bought like a share of Square and a share of something else, just to buy a couple things and watch and see what happens. Anyway, amid the celebration, some Wall Street Bets users predicted an impending regulatory crackdown, especially given the astronomical donations Wall Street gave to Joe Biden and the Democratic Party in the run-up to last year's election. Well, I'm glad to hear that these people are able to,
to buy the law?
No, I'm glad to hear that the people in Wall Street Bets are able to see that Joe Biden is not their friend.
That's
right?
true.
The speed in which Congress will probably pass legislation to prevent something like this GameStop thing from happening again will show you the difference between immediate for Wall Street and immediate for people waiting on those $2,000 checks. This is according to a NFL running back, Justin Jackson, also apparently an outspoken leftist. So, pretty fascinating stuff here, and apparently this is continuing to develop as time goes on. What I still want to know, and if anybody does know it out there, and you can answer the question, 603-283-6160, did the NASDAQ completely freeze all trading today? Because I know that some of the trading companies froze specifically GameStop and AMC. Right. So I saw a notice from...
Did they freeze AMC? I know they had suggested it.
TD Ameritrade did.
Okay.
According to a post somebody made online, showing some sort of email or notice from TD Ameritrade that they were restricting. I don't know if that means they were freezing the trades, but they were putting some sort of restrictions on trades for AMC Theaters and GameStop today. So where are they going next with this? I don't know. I haven't spent really any time looking at the Wall Street Bets subreddit, but I imagine that is the place you are going to want to start looking at this. And if it's true that they can just go after any company that's got these short sale positions and they can just somehow identify which one of these stocks has these things, they can go and just target these things every single day.
And I'm hoping that's exactly what they do.
Yeah, and if this is successful and if they're continually able to do this without the government somehow intervening or without NASDAQ somehow restricting the market to prevent this, because who knows what they're going to come up with. I mean,
I don't know how this could possibly be illegal or what law they could possibly use to make it illegal.
Well, I mean, they would pass a law, presumably, making it illegal to buy your own stocks. You have to go through a stockbroker again like you used to back in the day. I mean, they're gonna try whatever kind of Hail Mary desperate moves they can possibly do.
I don't think that would pass.
Well, I don't know.
And if it did, we might actually see pitchforks.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the point was, all the Occupy DC stuff or Occupy Wall Street stuff didn't do jack. It didn't do anything.
I mean, they just hung out for a few months on Wall Street.
Right. So bringing pitchforks isn't going to make, a difference. Wall Street's got plenty of money. They've got plenty of men with guns who will literally defend their positions.
I don't know. People made it into the Capitol building.
That's true.
And that was over something completely stupid.
Oh, yeah.
This is not completely stupid.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be interesting if people actually
held their government accountable?
Well, in this case, it's not the government. It's Wall Street.
Well, it would be the government if Wall Street was like, hey, you have to make it so that this can't happen again.
Mm-hmm. Well, they already have had armed guards out in front of these Wall Street buildings for years. I mean, I remember going to that area because we had this yearly talk show conference called Talkers that we would go to, Mark and I. They didn't have it in 2020, but prior to that, we went for like 15 years straight. And it's always in Manhattan, so it's usually not too far from Wall Street. And so we actually had lunch one year, and this was probably like early on, 2006, 2007. And there's men with guns down there. There's those what do you call them? Those barricades that kind of rise up from the bottom of the street, like they're held in the street, and then they just sort of rise up like stone barricades to stop trucks from coming down the alleyways. So they've got some serious security already, and I imagine they're going to be pumping it up.
Well, they have to protect their cocaine.
Yeah, 603-283-6160. If you want to join us here and weigh in on this interesting situation developing with the stocks and what's happening. Where is this going next? Are they targeting AMC? If you got your ear to the ground on this, let us know. It's Free Talk Live.
Look, I'm sorry, but you're in for a world of pain if you use Koinomi. The reason is their wallet doesn't support payments. The solution is simple. Let them hear your voice. Message Koinomi on Twitter, it takes 5 seconds, and tell them AnyPay sent you, because they're on the fence right now, and your voice will prove that people care about using Bitcoin for payments. Go tweet at Koinomi now. Or even better, leave a review in the App Store. They really pay attention there. Thanks.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions, or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at baenbooks.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Combating climate change. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Joe Biden signing several executive orders to act on what he calls an existential threat.
The president called it Climate Day at the White House, which he says also meant Jobs Day. He signed orders centered around creating an Office of Domestic Climate Policy with an eye on revitalizing areas where oil and coal jobs have suffered.
Turning old brownfield sites into new hubs of economic growth, creating new good-paying jobs in those communities where those workers live because they help build this country.
Biden says his actions will not ban fracking and will make climate change important to national security and foreign policy. He also announced a global climate summit to be convened on Earth Day this year. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken held his first press briefing since being confirmed. He said he's deeply concerned about the treatment of Alexei Navalny, the critic of Russian President Vladimir Putin, and he says the U.S. is considering actions in response to his detention.
Whether it is the treatment of Mr. Navalny and particularly the apparent use of a chemical weapon in an attempt to assassinate him.
Blinken said the administration is also reviewing how to respond to other actions tied to Russia, including the SolarWinds cyber attack on government agencies and the reports of bounties on American troops in Afghanistan. The Justice Department says 3 people affiliated with a far-right militia group called the Oath Keepers have been indicted in connection with the January 6th riot at the Capitol. Jessica Marie Watkins and Donovan Ray Crowell, both of Ohio, and Thomas Caldwell from Virginia, face numerous charges, including obstruction of Congress, which carries a sentence of up to 20 years in prison. Wall Street, the Dow lost 633 points, the NASDAQ minus 355. America is listening to Fox News.
Why are you still going to the post office? Do it all online with Stamps.com. Avoid trips to the post office, print postage, send invoices, letters, or packages, and schedule pickups right from your home or office, 24/7. Get close to 10% off first-class stamps, up to 40% off priority mail, and up to 62% off UPS shipping rates. Go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone, and enter code FOX for a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale. Stamps.com, code FOX.
The 6 men suspected of plotting to kidnap the governor of Michigan has agreed to a plea deal.
Ty Garbin's agreement to plead guilty to a kidnapping conspiracy and now fully cooperating with investigators. 4 months after 6 people were charged in federal court and another 8 people in state court in an alleged anti-government and anti-coronavirus restrictions plot to kidnap Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer, an alleged plot that was broken up by the FBI. And while there's no agreement on Garbin's sentencing guidelines, his attorney maintains he had no intention to carry out a kidnapping no matter what he might have said. In recorded or online conversations, trial is set for March for others charged in the case. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
Oklahoma's Attorney General's office is attempting to return $2 million worth of hydroxychloroquine, a malaria drug once touted by President Trump as a treatment for COVID-19. At the time, Governor Kevin Stitt said he was being proactive in making the purchase, but the drug has shown to have little effect in combating the virus. COVID vaccine shortages in parts of Europe have forced some countries to halt vaccinations.
Madrid is halting its rollout of coronavirus vaccines. Anyone due to receive their first shot in the coming days has been told they'll have to wait as supplies run low. The Spanish region of Catalonia says 10,000 people who received their first dose of the Pfizer vaccine now won't be able to get the required second dose as planned 3 weeks later. The EU is facing...
I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
Now, a lot of little girls do ballet even though their fathers couldn't care less and don't see what the big deal is. But one talented little prodigy actually choreographed a whole ballet that her father could enjoy and even look forward to. Let's meet Erin Kemper and her father, Jack.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Erin, how did you do that? I thought about all the things that my dad likes to watch and put it into a ballet.
Well, we have a special treat for you today because Erin is now going to perform her new ballet. When I pay the bills, I get to make the rules.
We can't afford that. World War II. I miss your mother too, but we're going to have to do the best without her. Go Redskins!
Bravo! Well done. Boy, I wish you were mine. You know, my two girls are grown up, but you still couldn't pay me to watch one of their a cappella shows. What inspired you to create this amazing ballet?
I'm really inspired by the theme of my dad paying any attention to me at all.
Now, at the end, I hear she just put the game up on the big screen.
I don't know where she gets it.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, and if you want to join us here, you can. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And Bonnie.
And Aria.
And, of course, you can bring up anything that you want. I don't know if there's much more to say specifically about what's
I have a quick update.
Yeah, okay, so just to bring our listeners up to speed, big news today, and it's something unlike we've ever seen before. I mean, this is amazing what has happened. Internet stock people. I don't know what do you call these people?
Ordinary people who buy and sell stocks using apps like Robinhood.
I think the technical term that was used by the bigwigs was retail stock traders. So like the end user.
Well,
basically.
they call themselves degenerates.
Yes,
so out of respect for them,
we should call them
I'm going to
degenerates.
call them degenerates.
Yes, the self-described degenerates from Reddit on reddit.com/r/Wall Street Bets. Now, apparently the site was made private for some amount of time and was made public again just recently, according to some of the folks in our chat room over at chat.lrn.fm. If you want to join the Matrix chat server, there's discussion of this. It's been going on there, so check that out.
I think they're mistaken. I think they've confused it with the story of Discord shutting down their server.
Okay, because that was the other aspect of this, was that Discord has targeted this Wall Street Bets server. Is that what you were going to tell us about?
Yes.
So they've shut down their server completely.
Yes, it's dead. Just like the LRN Discord server.
Indeed. Well,
and for the same reason, they said hate speech.
Oh.
But according to the people at Verge, that's pretty true. They were not censoring anything, and there were a lot of racial slurs and stuff. And
oh, I thought they were saying they hated the hedge funds, and so therefore we need to protect the hedge funds.
That would have been hilarious, but that doesn't seem to have been the case.
Well, I would like to suggest to them to check out the Matrix. Matrix is a polycentric. I think that's a better word than decentralized. It's certainly not like corporate controlled. It is out of the corporate control. We have our own Matrix server. It's federated, which means it's connected to other Matrix servers all around the internet, so you can reach people who are on those other servers and vice versa. And so I would recommend, instead of just trying to dance around these corporate platforms, because that's what most people do, is they get kicked off of one corporate platform and then they try to find another corporate platform to replace it. So with social media, they went from Facebook to like MeWe or Mayway or however you pronounce it in Parler. Well, Parler got shut down basically completely by
got wrecked.
Its web host and so on. We talked about that when it happened. But I also saw posts recently by this Mayway, who they've been cracking down now on all kinds of groups on Mayway. So if you thought you were going to go to another centralized platform and that you'd have some sort of safety there, no. Your days were numbered from the start. So the best thing you can do is do decentralization. Go with the Matrix chat server. You don't have to use ours, but you can if you want. You can go to Matrix or go to chat.lrn.fm, and it'll give you the step-by-step instructions on how to get on the server. And there you can create your own channels if you want to. I mean, there's already a bunch of channels there you can join, but if there's not the channel that has the topic you want to see discussed, make your own. If you want it to be public or private, you can do that too. And if it's private, then you have to invite people to it. But if it's public, then it's listed and anyone can join. So check that out at chat.lrn.fm. That's a solution for these guys from Wall Street Bets, because it may be only a matter of time before Reddit takes them down too. I mean, who knows? Is Reddit a publicly traded company?
I have no idea. Yeah, probably.
I don't know either. So again, if you want to weigh in here, 603-283-6160. This is a big deal, and it'll be interesting to see how this develops, because these guys have no reason to let up.
No.
They've just made a bunch of money.
And the longer they don't let up, the more money they make.
That's right. And one of the things that was interesting about this was how, and I don't know where that post went to. There was a really interesting post that kind of summed this up. Okay, here it is. Just Loki on Twitter, at Loki Juliana, says, for those who don't know why they're flipping out, a busted short has, to quote Investopedia, who phrases it nicely, an infinite potential for loss, because the higher the price of the stock, in this case GameStop is what's being played with here, the more money you lose if you're a shorter.
Right.
And you owe people shares, which are scarce, not money, which is plentiful. So, and this explains what you were saying earlier about why the price continues to skyrocket on GameStop, because the people who are buying it also have the intention to not sell. They want to hold on to the stocks, which means when these hedge fund managers are trying to repurchase the stocks that they owe people, they can't do it. Yep. And it bids the price up of what few stocks are willing to be sold, to the point where a lot of these guys on Reddit are paying off loans. They're paying off college loans. They're buying, medicines for their sick family members. All of a sudden, these people have a tremendous amount of wealth at their disposal. And you know what they can do with all that wealth? Buy more stocks.
Buy Bitcoin.
Well, and they should buy Bitcoin, Bonnie, and you're right about that. And
I hear that AMC and BlackBerry are their next targets.
Wow. Did you check the BlackBerry stock price?
I didn't.
Okay, I haven't either. But AMC shot up by like 100% in just the last day, so they may have already begun this process. And some people in our chat room are saying this has been being planned for weeks. So,
well, sure, something like this doesn't happen overnight. But they made the realization recently that, hey, we actually have more stocks than these people who shorted can acquire.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when they put this plan into motion, and it worked brilliantly.
Fascinating. 603-283-6160. So, now they can do this again and again and again, presumably, unless they can somehow pull out all the stops and manage to restrict the marketplace, because these are centrally controlled markets. That's the one problem that they're dealing with here, is they are ultimately playing by the system's rules. Now, they figured out a way to play the system, but that doesn't mean the system won't change its rules to try to make things more difficult. So I expect that you're going to see some interesting continuing, conflict on this.
Well, they've already sort of begun to change the rules with NASDAQ suspending the trading of GameStop.
Was it that they suspended GameStop? Did we ever confirm that?
They at least suspended GameStop, according to the article that we read. So that's changing the rules right there.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we don't like what's happening. We're putting a stop to it. But if they do that, then the hedge fund people literally cannot rebuy the stocks. So it's not benefiting the hedge fund people either.
What happens in that case? I mean, if they can't rebuy the stock that they promised whoever it was that loaned the stock to them, is there an option where they can pay like 10 times the cost and just cash it out? Or, I mean, eventually they go out of business, and then the person doesn't get the stock back. So then what
I imagine
happens?
These contracts are enormously long.
Yeah.
I have a question. What would you say to somebody who would say like that it doesn't make sense that you would like this happening to the hedge funds because you're pro-capitalism?
Oh, well, I'm not a capitalist. I'm a free market person. Like, I don't like the term capitalism personally. I find that it's misunderstood. I don't know particularly what the definition of it is exactly. I'm sure there's a dictionary definition, which has probably changed over time. And depending on who you're talking to, in a lot of cases, a lot of people, when they say capitalism, they mean corporatism. where these big corporations are tied in with the government, and they get, benefits for doing that. Now, whether that's fascism or not is a whole other question, but I don't really much care for any of these isms. I mean, I'm definitely against socialism. There's no doubt that quote-unquote capitalist markets have been better than socialist markets. I saw a good joke about that. I think on the Tales of a Libertarian Telegram group, there was like a meme that showed a picture of the migrants. There's usually like these migrant bands that will come up from Honduras or something like that to travel to the United States.
Right.
And the joke is, if socialism was so much better than capitalism, how come these, migrant bands don't go to Venezuela?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I consider myself a capitalist, right?
Okay. What's that mean?
Well, it means I'm an advocate of free markets, ultimately.
See, that's the thing. Is that what that really means?
I want to jar people and make them ask questions.
Okay.
The same reason I call myself an anarchist and a Satanist and a tranny or she-male and all of these other things. That's just sort of what I prefer to do. But generally, I advocate for free markets. But even within the confines of what most people consider capitalism to be, these hedge fund people are evil. Mm-hmm. They deserve to be bankrupt. They deserve to live in abject poverty because they are evil and they have destroyed people's lives and they've profited off of that.
And they use the government to get their way. I just wanted to point it out that this isn't capitalism, it's corporatism.
Yeah, that's a much better term for this. Corporatism, 603-283-6160, because we don't have a free market. The stock market is highly regulated.
Yeah, it's clearly not free because NASDAQ just said, we don't like this, and pulled the plug on the GameStop trading.
603-283-6160. You can join us here. Take control of the airwaves. Your thoughts are welcome. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com. Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org. Freedom! Freedom is the call of the untamed Scotsman and all others that want to feel the wind under their kilts.
At Free Talk Live, we love the breezy, swinging feeling that only a kilt from Sport Kilt can give.
We teamed up with Sport Kilt to let you experience their form of freedom at a discount. Go to kilts.freetalklive.com and see a picture of Richie and me in our kilts.
And then head over to sportkilt.com. Get some stylish freedom for yourself and use code FTL for a 10% discount. Sportkilt.com.
Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by DJ Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and our number here is 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160. Here tonight, you've got Ian,
Bonnie,
and Aria.
And you can, of course, bring up anything that you want. We've been discussing this NASDAQ situation where these old stock people, the old money guys on Wall Street, are under attack. And as RT points out, they are beating these old dinosaurs at their own game. It's basically just a Reddit group called Wall Street Bets. And it's absolutely fascinating to watch this happen. Again, if you want to weigh in here, you can. Our number is 603-283-6160. Business Insider reporting that the NASDAQ CEO says the exchange will halt trading in a stock if they link unusual activity to social media chatter. So, yeah, it does sound like they are specifically targeting specific stocks. This is according to, again, Business Insider. Looks like the Reddit community has sparked earth-shattering price rises in stocks like GameStop, AMC, and Nokia, with no fundamental moves behind the stock movements. And what they mean by that is that the companies haven't done anything, right? Like normally when a stock price goes up, there's some sort of announcement that the company has done a certain thing, it's made a new deal, or had new revenues, and then people buy it. Right.
I like reading what the investment firms and the hedge fund managers have to say about this. They're like, this isn't investing. They're not diversifying. They're just buying one stock. Is it proper investing?
They're not doing it our way.
This isn't the way this is done. Like, dude, they are making millions, billions of dollars off of you idiots. Yeah. Maybe you should shut up and listen to them for a minute.
Hire one of them.
Yeah, because they just bankrupted you. Overnight.
And what's interesting is if this basically makes it impossible for these hedge companies to do short sells, because again, they can just identify them. They can say, well, this company has a lot of short sells on this stock, and this stock has a lot of short sells by this company, and then they can just target that one stock, make a bunch of money off of buying it up, and then put all of these companies out of business. I mean, could be the end of the hedge fund, right? Is that an exaggeration to say that this could completely end this business model?
I don't think so. I don't think it's out of question.
So you agree this could be the end of hedge funds.
Unless they come up with some miraculous regulation that actually does manage to prohibit the average person from buying individual stocks. If they can pull that off, then they may be able to save hedge funds. But I mean, clearly, it's just gambling. They gambled. They lost. Someone called their bluff, and it's time for them to eat the losses.
Oh, okay. Now, interestingly, the Business Insider says that the stocks GameStop, AMC, and Nokia are listed on the New York Stock Exchange, not the NASDAQ. So maybe NASDAQ... I
have no idea.
It sounds like NASDAQ was just reacting to what might happen to them at this point. Because if that's true, then NASDAQ can't freeze the trading on these stocks in that case. Though Friedman's CNBC appearance brings into question what a market exchange's role is in regulating extreme stock activity. Friedman said the NASDAQ's role as a self-regulatory organization is to make sure activity in the market is, quote, legitimate and not to root out manipulation, and to root out manipulation in the market. She didn't detail what kind of technology that NASDAQ uses to, quote, evaluate social media chatter, unquote, but she said if the NASDAQ can match unusual trading with social media activity, the exchange will halt the stock and potentially engage with the SEC, which is the Federal Securities and Exchange Commission, to evaluate and investigate. One illegal market manipulation activity that the SEC goes after is a pump and dump scheme. An investor buys a stock and then publicly pumps it by spreading a rumor or another catalyst for the stock to go up. Other people see the rumors and buy the stock, causing the price to rise. The person who originated the rumor then sells the stock to those people at the higher price in the dump and takes the profits.
But that's clearly not what this is.
Well, yeah, this isn't a rumor. This isn't like, oh, this company is going to do a thing that's going to make you a bunch of money. This is let's buy this stock up for the purposes of killing Wall Street and these stupid, vulturous hedge fund managers. Friedman said NASDAQ collaborates with FINRA, which is another federal agency, and the SEC. So they're definitely like beating their chest right now, and they're saying, well, we're going to investigate you. You guys ought to be afraid. But really, what are they going to do to 2 million people? I mean, there's 3.6 million people in this Reddit.
Yeah, and those are just the ones on the Reddit. How many people have heard about this and are listening to it now?
Right,
and
like we did.
Well, I'm not going to join the Reddit, but I'm going to go on Robinhood and buy some of this stuff.
I just did it tonight.
I tried to. They have to KYC me, and I don't feel like doing it.
You're still signing up?
Yeah. I'll deal with it later.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with these stocks is you've got to jump through all these hoops.
Yeah, KYC is know your customer.
People.
So they want to see my ID, my social security card, and all this crap. I'm like,
it's a pretty
fine. I will do it later.
Yeah, it's a pretty smooth process. It's fully automated from what I recall when I signed up a few months ago for the Robinhood thing. But what these things will allow you to do is to make your own stock purchases without having to go through a broker, right? Like you don't have to call your guy and then he calls his guy and then, do they have the thing available or whatever? People can just place their own orders. So how could they possibly even enforce pump and dump on this? I mean, they would have to go in, even if it was illegal what these people were doing, they'd have to go in and subpoena Reddit to get IP address information for all of the users, whoever posted, right? Because they can only identify the people who posted.
Yeah.
About this. So everyone who just saw the conversation and went and made the purchase.
And who aren't, maybe some of them are using Windscribe or some other VPN service. So getting the IP address won't help at all.
Yeah, it could be near to impossible.
They still might do it to send a message.
Sure, and that's what they certainly...
To 3 million something people, though? I don't think the government has the power.
They don't have the resources. They don't have the time. Now, we don't know how many people commented. It probably wasn't 3 million of them. It was probably a tenth or less or 1% of them or something like that. But then they'll just redouble their efforts. I don't think this would, even if they did go after somebody for this, I don't think it would stop them, because then somebody would just post about how to use a VPN, and they'd post that VPN post up, and other people would jump on board with just protecting themselves.
They didn't manipulate the market here. They didn't do a pump and dump. All they did was exploit the stupidity of hedge fund managers, and I am 100% okay with that. And if exploiting someone's stupidity when they take huge gambling risks that they can't afford becomes illegal, then what we effectively have is just straight up socialism, which isn't surprising because we do have socialized losses and privatized profits, right? If these
is it socialism or fascism?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It really doesn't matter.
Well, isn't fascism the government-regulated private market, whereas socialism is the government totally controlled marketplace? Meaning that,
sure,
yes, it's probably more fascism than anything else. But there you go. You're going to get fascism under Joe Biden.
Yay!
I don't think that's what the leftists were expecting when they elected him.
Well, it remains to be seen what's going to come of this.
No, it does. Yeah, you're right.
But
I'm fascinated to watch it.
Yes, hopefully they can manage to put all of these hedge funds out of business, at which point this market strategy would no longer work. But hey, while it's working and while these people are over leveraged, exploit it.
Yeah,
that's what they did in 2007 when they bought people's homes for pennies on the dollar and kicked them out into the streets.
To 603-283-6160. Coming up, the other big news is coming from this this group of people that I keep forgetting their name.
The Proud Boys.
The Proud Boys. Thank you for that. Yeah, this is the group that Donald Trump said stand by and stand down. Remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah. So, and they've been, in the news for going out and getting into fights with Antifa. So Antifa and the Proud Boys are sort of the opposite sides of the political so-called civil war or whatever that's going on. Well, it turns out the top dog in the Proud Boys is actually a government informant. And Bonnie will tell us about that coming up here. You can share your thoughts with us as well. It's Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. What's going to happen next in this GameStop attack? I don't know if you want to call it like an attack on Wall Street. It's just absolutely fascinating what's going on. But we're going to move on to a different topic, and that is police informants working within the alt-right community, which, by the way, they're in the alt-left too. I mean, if you want to call the Antifa the alt-left, you know they're infiltrated as well. Anywhere there's any sort of like political movement that could change the status quo in some way, the federal government, and there's the potential for violence, the federal government's going to have agents there.
Well, they even do within the libertarians.
Yeah.
And there's not really any potential for violence from us.
Oh, yeah. They're obsessed with the libertarians. They've been investigating us for 15 years at least.
Well, and now they're considering us extremists.
That's right. That came out recently, right? Like anyone who's an anti-government person is now an extremist. That's been true for decades. Though.
Sure.
They're pumping the propaganda back out again, given what happened on the 6th of January, which wasn't an anti-government event. I mean, that was the people that were taking an unauthorized tour of the U.S. Capitol building. Most of those people were pro-government people. They're just in favor of their government being in.
They were just showing the government what a no-knock raid feels like.
Yeah, except they were pretty respectful. I mean, as far as a no-knock raid, a lot of times the cops will trash your house. In this case, they
shoot you.
Yeah, they walked
your neighbors,
within
or your pets.
The people that were inside the Capitol, they were like walking within like the specified areas where they're supposed to walk.
Oh,
there was like cordoned off
good
areas.
Little peasants.
Yeah, so I mean, it was like the least offensive unauthorized tour ever. But nonetheless, the government's acting like it was some sort of an insurrection, and the crackdown is going to. It sounds like it's coming when it comes to targeting people who are so-called anti-government. And that was in the news today. I didn't pick it for show prep tonight. But we're going to get into one of these groups, the so-called Proud Boys, which we've talked about here on Free Talk Live over the last year or two. They are a group of men, I think, mostly men, who...
I would assume so.
Yeah.
They're called the Proud Boys.
They may have like a female division or something.
I don't think so, because they're all about like men's rights.
Yeah, but don't they believe in like their place should be in the kitchen kind of thing?
Yeah, like I know Gavin McInnes is one of like the founders of them, and he's super weird like that. Like he believes like women should be in the kitchen and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like a pro-West. They call themselves like pro-Western. That a woman's role should be in the home and in the kitchen, and that they claim they're not racist because they've got this Mexican guy or Hispanic gentleman who is apparently the leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio is his name. Well, news has come out about him. What's happened here, Bonnie?
This is from Reuters. It says exclusive. Proud Boys leader was prolific informer for law enforcement. Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the Proud Boys extremist group, has a past as an informer for federal and local law enforcement, repeatedly working undercover for investigators after he was arrested in 2012, according to a former prosecutor in a transcript of a 2014 federal court proceeding obtained by Reuters.
So going back for almost a decade, at least, this guy has been caught working with the police.
Yeah, it sounds like he was arrested. I think you said in 2012, and he was like, "Hey, I'll be your bitch if you let me out." He pulled a Chris Cantwell.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Except Chris wasn't doing it because he wanted to get out of jail. Chris Cantwell was talking to the police because he thought it would somehow benefit them. Yeah. Like he saw that that cozying up to the police would somehow benefit his movement, which was the ultra-right Nazi movement or whatever. And now these guys would say they aren't the Nazis, right? The Proud Boys, they've made it clear that they aren't racists. They're just
white supremacists.
I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's true from what we've read about it. They're just like
I don't know anything about their ideology.
I think they're like Western supremacists. So they're like they believe that the West is the best. They believe that.
How is that not white supremacy, though?
It's not. There's black people in the West. There's Hispanics in the West. They just believe that the West is better than the East.
Well, Gavin McInnes is definitely one of those people that acts like white males are like under attack and that white males are like oppressed right now.
I haven't spent any time listening to Gavin McInnes, but I take it that that's the case. But didn't he resign from the Proud Boys? Didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah, I believe he's no longer involved with them. Now, why that is, I don't know. But, why would somebody who was a Hispanic be involved in this? Well, maybe it's because he was an undercover agent. Maybe that's the reason. But at least publicly, they are saying that they are not racist and that they are not in favor of that. And their own website does make that claim, if I recall correctly, because we've looked into them before here on Free Talk Live and sort of looked through their list of things that they believe in.
Gavin McInnes did, in fact, quit the Proud Boys.
Yeah. They seem to just like to fight, and they want to go and fight with some leftists. So they'll show up at leftist protests and fight with them, and the leftists will show up with them at their protest, or show up to the Proud Boys protests and fight with them. So that seems to be more like, it just seems to be like a boys club or a fighting club or something like that. But again, that's just me looking at it from the outside. If you want to, weigh in with a discussion here, 603-283-6160. So what else did we learn about with this Tarrio guy?
It says, in the Miami hearing from 2014, his court hearing, a federal prosecutor, a federal Bureau of Investigation agent, and Tarrio's own lawyer described his undercover work and said he had helped authorities prosecute more than a dozen people in various cases involving drugs, gambling, and human smuggling. Tarrio, in an interview with Reuters Tuesday, denied working undercover or cooperating in cases against others. I don't know any of this, he said. When asked about the transcript, I don't recall any of this. Law enforcement officials...
Convenient.
My eyes were shut the whole time.
Because apparently he was in court, and these are court records, right?
Yeah, and his own lawyer was talking about it in front of him, yeah. Law enforcement officials and the court manuscript contradict Tarrio's denial. In a statement to Reuters, the former federal prosecutor in Tarrio's case, Vanessa Singh Johannes, confirmed that he cooperated with local and federal law enforcement to aid in the prosecution of those running other separate criminal enterprises, ranging from running marijuana grow houses in Miami to operating pharmaceutical fraud schemes.
So this guy is just a scumbag from top to bottom. I mean, it's bad enough if you're an informant for the federal government, but to be an informant in areas in which there are no victims whatsoever. Right.
Yeah, the human smuggling thing.
We'll get into that. It actually is
human smuggling
victim.
Sounds bad, right?
But
if it's just helping people across the border,
right?
And that's what it is.
Yeah. And he was.
That's why they called it human smuggling and not human trafficking.
Yeah.
I mean, there's.
Yeah,
I
at
guess
first I thought
right.
it was human trafficking.
Right.
I was like, oh, well, that's not that bad.
But yeah, so going after
just
drugs.
helping people become freer by fleeing to a country that they want to be in, where they will enjoy more freedoms. Enrique says no.
And the way that he did it was so gross. Well, it has it here.
Well, before we go on with that, the whole pharmaceutical fraud, again, that sounds bad, right? Fraud. But what that probably means is that he was trying to bust people who were making black market medications and marketing them as though they were the real thing, which isn't the same thing as like fraud. It just depends, right? So like if you go on the black market, if you go on a darknet marketplace and you look for prescription medications, if you're looking for something like Xanax, right? Xanax is a brand name. I forget what the actual chemical name is, but there's a certain chemical that is Xanax. If you look for that brand name, you will find people selling quote-unquote Xanax, but they'll tell you that it's not actually Xanax. You're getting their version of it. You're getting the darknet version of Xanax. You're getting the chemical itself that somebody is making in their own lab. It's not coming from Merck or Pfizer or whoever it is that owns Xanax. So that's what they're talking about, I think, when they say pharmaceutical fraud. There are people online who are selling drugs that is not made by the drug companies, and the drug companies are mad about that, so they want to crush those people.
Poor babies.
Right? The big corporations want to put those people, the darknet sellers, out of business.
So does the government.
Yeah. 603-283-6160, and this Tarrio guy from the Proud Boys is helping the government go after marijuana growers and other peaceful criminals. 603-283-6160. If you're involved in these Proud Boys organizations, you may want to be very concerned. And same thing's true for Antifa. Be very concerned with who else is in your group. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
calling it the most effective means to reaching one's full earning potential. A new report issued by the Employee Benefit Research Institute this week found that violently slamming one's supervisor against a wall and shouting, "Cash, I need more cash," is still the leading tactic for securing a raise amongst American workers.
We found that employees have the most success negotiating their salaries when they stride confidently into their supervisor's office, manhandle them like a rag doll, and demand more money right now.
Experts confirmed that the majority of employees who managed to increase their salaries maintained direct eye contact with their supervisors while reiterating that they were not f***ing around, emphasizing their position with phrases such as, "Give me the money now," and "I said more cash, old man." The Onion sat down with Kevin Simmons, who recently applied these methods in negotiating a competitive bump in his annual salary.
So the other day I walked right into his office, grabbed his throat with my hand, and told him straight up, "Start paying me more f***ing money today." And I grabbed $100 out of his wallet and told him that was a good start.
This is the Onion News Network.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Fact. The new NSA data center in Utah requires 1.7 million gallons of water every single day to operate. Billions of Fourth Amendment violations need massive computers and the water to cool them. That water is being supplied by the state of Utah. Fact. There's absolutely nothing in the Constitution which requires your state to help the feds violate your rights. Our message to Utah: turn it off. No water equals no NSA data center. Visit offnow.org.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Oh, I just got
it. This is Free Talk Live, and you can join us here, 603-283-6160. We're talking about the Proud Boys. Their leader, turns out he's an informant for the federal government.
I'm not in the least surprised.
And I suspect he's not the only one. If they have captured the leader of the organization, then who else is in their control? Who else is on their payroll?
I got to go with Chris Wade on this one. I'm almost positive that someone in the Free Keene area, a libertarian here in Keene, someone is an informant. I mean, there's nothing to inform the FBI
about, right?
But
yeah,
someone is certainly an informant.
Whether that someone is currently here or was here before, I think that at some points we have definitely had these people around. And
Jackie, sorry, I coughed there. That was a weird sounding cough.
Interesting. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to really figure out who these people are because some people in the libertarian community are just angry. They're angry people who moved to this place. Like Chris Cantwell is a good example of this. Was Chris Cantwell an informant when he moved here?
No.
Okay, well, almost everyone thought that he was some sort of federal agent.
Well, they said that about all of us.
That's right. Yeah.
People have said it about me already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a badge of honor. It's like you're officially a resident of Keene now because someone has suggested that you
you're
might
a federal
be
agent. Yeah.
Ian gets it. I get it. You get it. I mean, it's insane.
I think that it has happened. I think it would be foolish to say that we haven't had informants come in here. But again, as you pointed out, no one here is planning violence. If they are, we put them on the outs. We don't want to have anything to do with them. There was one time there was this guy that came over to the Keene Activist Center years ago, and I forget what his name is, but anyway, he was sort of guested over there by Silver Dave, and they knew each other in high school, and this guy started talking about violence. And he's at this Keene Activist Center, which
sounds
is
like what an informant would do.
Yeah, which is a peaceful place, right? And we are a peaceful movement. And so it was brought to my attention as ultimately the administrator of the Activist Center that this person was there. So I went over there and I asked him some pointed questions about, are you actually advocating violence? What do you believe? I forget the exact questions I asked him, but I wanted to kind of suss out what he had been saying to people. And he started talking about militias and, forming militias, which is, by the way, from what I understand, illegal in New Hampshire. You have to call it something else.
Of course. It's a gun club.
Yeah, something like that. And so he started talking about using violence in defense against the government. And I'm like, this just isn't the place for that kind of discussion. So I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And so I kicked him out as a result of that. Now, to be fair, our own co-host Nobody has recently been, alluding to violence.
He's been pretty extreme lately.
Yeah, and suggesting that sort of thing. I don't think that they've turned him. I don't think that Nobody is actually a federal informant. I mean, they did give him the chance to wear a wire into the Keene Activism Center, and he instead went to jail for a year instead of actually doing the wearing of the wire. So, I mean, he's got a lot of street cred as a result of that. I highly doubt they've turned him.
Right.
I think he really is just that angry. I think that there are some
anger
people...
doesn't help the situation.
No.
Anger just restricts people's ability to think things through rationally.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I understand why somebody is frustrated. I don't think that he's an irrational person. I think that he is a rationally angry guy who is, wants to extract some revenge on these people, even if he won't do it personally. Like Tom from New Hampshire, who calls in constantly and talks about violence against the police. He won't do it personally, but he seems to want to sort of plant these seeds out there in the hopes that someone else will take him up on it. And it's a terrible plan.
I think the best way to exact revenge against these people is like what we were talking about earlier with the GameStop thing.
To make them poor.
Yeah.
Right.
Take away all their money. Bitcoin is the best way of doing that. But this stock shorting thing
it's brilliant.
It's proving to be another good way.
Yeah, so, again, telling you the difference between somebody who is just an angry mover, somebody who's mad about the police state, mad about, the financial situation. There's a lot of things that people could be mad about when it comes to the government in the United States. So I don't blame them for that. Another good example is Lumpy, the guy who's currently working on your house. When he first moved here, he was super angry. Like, he was this angry guy who, I remember at one protest, he spat on a police cruiser, and, he was really a really angry guy. And I think he's chilled out a lot.
He has definitely chilled out a lot.
Yeah. I went through that really, really bad when I first started hating cops, and I cussed out a cop for, a whole hour at the top of my lungs.
Really?
I got disturbing the peace or something like that.
They charged you for cussing out a cop?
Yeah, and I also got ordered to go to anger management.
Did you take a guilty plea on that?
I paid a fine.
Oh, so you could have won that one.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
We all just pay the fine by default. I mean, we have to learn not to pay fine.
Yeah, that's true. It's something you have to practice at.
Yeah.
Because the system is designed to encourage that sort of thing. It encourages people to obey. It encourages them to pay the fine.
I didn't know I didn't know what a libertarian was or anything back then. I just knew I hated cops.
Was this?
I don't hate cops. I pity them.
Yep. That's a more important and a more empowering position to come from, to pity a person rather than hate them, because then you can at least have some empathy, I think, for that person. Like, man, it would really suck to be in that guy's position. Or it would have sucked to have made the decisions that, and they continue to make, that puts them in these positions of being little tyrants.
I told
over
that
people.
cop if I was his parents, I would kill myself. That I had a cop son.
Oof. Now, where was this?
Going into the base on Dugway Proving Grounds, Utah.
Where you spent some time growing up, and the cops would mess with you regularly, and these were military police.
They're not MPs.
They were actual cops. Like,
I don't know what the difference is, but I know they're not MPs.
So
it's
did they
federal
work for
land.
They worked for the military though, or they worked for the federal government?
Presumably.
Yeah. 603-283-6160. We can tell you more about this Enrique Tarrio. What else do we need to know about him?
The transcript from 2014 shines a new light on Tarrio's past connections to law enforcement. During the hearing, the prosecutor and Tarrio's defense attorney asked a judge to reduce the prison sentence of Tarrio and two co-defendants. They had pleaded guilty in a fraud case related to the relabeling and sale of stolen diabetes test kits.
So they were committing pharmaceutical fraud in the first place. So he's still got all of those connections with people in that world, and now he's dropping the dime on them.
Yeah.
To save himself.
The prosecutor said
the lowest of the low.
Yeah.
Tarrio's information had led to the prosecution of 13 people on federal charges in two separate cases and had helped local authorities investigate a gambling ring. Tarrio's then lawyer, Jeffrey Filer, said in court that his client had worked undercover in numerous investigations, one involving the sale of anabolic steroids, another regarding wholesale prescription narcotics, and a third targeting human smuggling. He said Tarrio helped police uncover 3 marijuana grow houses, and he was a prolific cooperator. In the smuggling case, Tarrio, at his own risk, in an undercover role, met and negotiated to pay $11,000 to members of that ring to bring in fictitious family members of his from another country.
Right, so we're talking about helping people.
Yeah, hey, bring in my family. Here's
Right.
$11,000.
Yeah, he's hiring guys in the black market to coyote his family into the country, family that didn't exist, and he was doing this on behest of the federal government. Now, I have to wonder...
So he wasn't just being a snitch. He was actually going out and creating crimes that he could turn the FBI over to the FBI.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, was he actually on their payroll?
It sounds like he would almost have to be.
Well, because when you get busted for a thing and the feds come to you and say, hey, we need you to flip on your buddies or, set these other guys up or whatever... I mean, do they normally continue to have you do that for years and years after that in various different other situations? I mean, does becoming an informant for the federal government mean you have to always be an informant for them forever until the end of time?
Well, he's not just an informant, though. I mean, it's not like he was just monitoring what the Proud Boys was up to and baiting them into saying violent things and turning that info over to the FBI. He was out there actually looking for crimes.
Yeah, it said at his own risk.
Yeah. So why? Why is he taking that risk?
He's got to be on their payroll. I don't see any other explanation.
Yeah, and how, recent are these cases? I mean, I know they said that he got busted or was in these court cases as far back as 2012. Do they have evidence that he was doing this in recent years? Or is this just some old court stuff that kind of somebody managed to dig up on him and now they're showing him for who he truly is, which is a dirty snitch? Your thoughts are welcome. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. I mean, if somebody has infiltrated your group and they start suggesting you do things that are clearly illegal and possibly relating to violence or whatever, and you don't have any kind of history with this person, be very, very careful. Probably you shouldn't do it.
I would entirely agree with that statement.
603-283-6160. If you want to join us here, we got hour number 3 on the way. There may be more about Tarrio coming up. We'll share that with you if so. And, of course, your calls and thoughts are welcome about whatever's on your mind. This is Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. D-I-V-I project.org.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Charges filed. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The federal government has indicted 3 people it says took part in the January 6th riot at the Capitol.
Federal prosecutors have charged Thomas Caldwell, Donovan Crowell, and Jessica Watkins, all members of the far-right militia known as the Oath Keepers, with conspiring to obstruct Congress. The FBI says messages from the 3 while at the Capitol are part of the evidence against them. The obstruction charges come in addition to a judge determining the 3 were dangers to the community. They were ordered held without bond. No pleas from the accused have been entered. If found guilty, the conspiracy charge could carry a minimum of 20 years in prison. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
This coming as the Department of Homeland Security has issued a national terrorism bulletin warning of what it says is the potential for lingering violence from people motivated by anti-government sentiment after the election of President Biden. The department isn't citing a specific threat, but says there is a heightened threat environment across the United States it believes will persist in the weeks since the president took office. And the president signed another round of executive orders. These deal with climate change.
It's a whole-of-government approach. Put climate change at the center of our domestic, national security, and foreign policy.
The orders create an Office of Domestic Climate Policy, which he says will revitalize areas where oil and coal jobs have been lost, and the president said he will not ban fracking. The president also said a global climate summit will be held on Earth Day. Mel Brooks has released a statement after the death of Cloris Leachman. The two worked together on the 1974 film Young Frankenstein, which Brooks directed, saying she was insanely talented and will be greatly missed. Cloris Leachman died earlier today of natural causes. She was 94. America is listening to Fox News.
Even in the new year, it's hard to start a new routine. But if you're one of the 34% of Americans who made a resolution to be less stressed, Headspace is here to help. Headspace is one of the only meditation apps advancing the field of mindfulness and meditation through clinically validated research and can reduce stress, improve sleep, boost focus, and increase your overall sense of well-being. Go to headspace.com/Fox for a free 1-month trial. This is the best deal offered right now. Headspace.com/Fox.
Teachers in Ohio will start receiving the coronavirus vaccine ahead of schedule.
The state of Ohio planned to start giving teachers the coronavirus shot beginning next month, though some teachers will begin getting vaccinated this week as the state rolls out vaccinations to Ohioans 65 and older as part of the same phase after Governor Mike DeWine announced an excess of thousands of vaccine doses, with counties needing fewer, in part as the state also says about half of nursing home employees have declined to get the shot. Ohio also reports that hospitalizations are down, allowing an expected easing of the state's 10 p.m. curfew this week. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
Georgia Governor Brian Kemp says the state will get more vaccines each week from the federal government, rising by nearly 26,000 doses, or a 15% increase. The announcement came hours after state officials said they may not see a boost in their weekly vaccine allocation until April. San Francisco's school board votes to rename dozens of schools over what it sees as historical offenses.
The vote was 6-1 to rename 44 schools because, for example, Presidents Washington and Jefferson owned slaves, President Lincoln for oppressing indigenous people. Current Senator Dianne Feinstein, a Democrat, is on the list over allegations she replaced a Confederate flag torn down when she was San Francisco mayor in 1986. Current Mayor London Breed has said the school board should be focused on reopening schools during the coronavirus pandemic, not renaming them. One board member says the vote sends a moral message. Another says the school should not be named after anyone.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
An update now on a legal battle emerging around the Onion News Network's own Jode Kressbeckler. After the shocking story yesterday that a group of assailants attacked Congressman William Cummings, tied him to a horse, and dragged him through a briar patch, some are now saying these statements from Mr. Kressbeckler last week may have incited the attack.
Bootlegging Congressman Cummings ought to be tied to a horse and drugged through a briar patch.
Mr. Kressbeckler's show is billed as an opinion and entertainment program.
Yes,
and
it
he
is.
even calls himself nothing but a caterwauling old badger, so
Right.
the claim that he would incite people to violence seems pretty far-fetched.
He displayed a map of Congressman Cummings' home in relation to the nearest briar patch, told his viewers where to purchase a, quote, good pulling horse, and used a life-size dummy of Congressman Cummings to demonstrate effective knot-tying techniques.
Right. I think most reasonable people would see that as simply a ribald political satire.
Right.
Briar patch is obviously a metaphor for the prickly political atmosphere in Washington, and drag from a horse means something else.
Makes sense to me.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, and you're invited if you want to join us on the radio. The number is 603-283-6160. That is 603-283-6160. And we're kicking off the third hour of the program. We've been talking about the crazy stock market situation that has developed over the last few weeks, apparently, but really making the news over the last day or two about what this group in Reddit has been up to. The Wall Street Bets group has been playing a little game that is resulting in their members becoming very wealthy at the expense of these hedge fund managers who are losing their shirts. And that was an absolutely fascinating story. If you want to comment on that, you're still welcome to join us. Also, then Bonnie was sharing with us the news about this Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the Proud Boys, who is denying to the hilt that it was him who was actually the Enrique Tarrio that apparently federal court documents show that back in 2012 was working with the police at his own risk, apparently. And
so Enrique Tarrio, who has a criminal history for pharmaceutical fraud, is trying to convince people that he was not the Enrique Tarrio on trial, where his lawyer was attesting that he had helped bust people for pharmaceutical fraud.
Yeah, he's claiming he doesn't recall.
That's one hell of a coincidence.
Claiming he doesn't recall these things happening in his life. But Bonnie, you're saying that Reuters has the papers. They have the documents that prove it. And now, the news is that the leader of one of the most, infamous organizations out there, right-wing, alt-right organizations, the Proud Boys, has been outed as a federal snitch. And so, of course, the big question is how many other people within this organization are snitches? How many people within any organization in which you happen to be a member, whether it be the Libertarian Party, whether it be the Free State Project, whether it be, whatever.
Young Americans for Liberty.
Yep, which you worked for them over the fall. Anybody who's suggesting, number one, violence, look out for that person.
Yeah.
Whether they're a federal agent or whether they're just an angry person, they are a danger to you. So beware of that. Anyone who's suggesting that you get involved in large drug deals, probably also, you might want to be careful with that one as well. Although, for all the people that have marijuana around here, I don't think they're trying to bust little things, right? Like, it doesn't seem like they're not trying to set somebody up for the sale of a quarter bag of marijuana.
I hope that they have better things to do with their time than that. But it is the police and the FBI that we're talking about, and they're probably pretty bored.
They did pop our guy Nobody back when he was Rich Paul for selling, I think, 3 or 4 quarter pounds of marijuana. But the reason they busted him was because they wanted to flip him into an informant to try to infiltrate the Keene Activist Center to find out whatever dastardly things they thought we were doing at the time, which, of course, was getting high and singing karaoke. So I don't think they were really finding what they were looking. Even if they did get informants in here, and I suspect at some point they didn't really find anything. Let's go to your calls and thoughts, though. There's maybe a little. Is there more about Tarrio that we need to know, Bonnie, from that story?
I don't think so.
Okay, so Kirby in Indiana, you're on Free Talk Live, and welcome to it. Go ahead, Kirby.
Hey, what's up, folks?
What's on your mind?
Wanted to comment on the increased terror alert.
Tell me about it. What's the increased terror alert? What is this?
Well, they're saying that we have to worry about the Proud Boys and the types that stormed the Capitol because they're on the loose and they're a domestic terror threat.
I think I saw something along those lines in the news anyway. I didn't click it because I'm just like, yeah, that sounds like the government. But the only people, the people who stormed the Capitol actually targeted were the government.
Yeah, I know, but it's just funny to me because if they were really wanting to do something about domestic terror, they could have done this in 1866, and we probably wouldn't be in this situation today.
When you say 1866, what are you referring to?
Reconstruction and how the Democratic Party's military wing destroyed Reconstruction. That would be the Ku Klux Klan, by the way. They destroyed Reconstruction and stunted America's growth. At the end of Reconstruction in 1877. Most of the Congress and Senate from the old Confederacy were former slaves.
Okay.
So, and where we're at now in America is still not free, white, black, red, brown, and yellow, because America stunted its growth, and it's still trying to figure out how to grow out of that. And that's where all these issues we're having today are rooted.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if all of the issues are rooted back in 1866, but I would say that the issues come from the people who are seeking power and the fact that they want to rule over others, and they don't ever want to let that go.
Well, after Reconstruction, the way that the government tried to control Reconstruction did keep people from getting wealthy themselves, and now the government has way more power over us.
So
maybe that's what he's saying.
Putting money in the hands of robber barons or whatever at the time, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and like Jim.
Yeah, that's where
Jim
Carnegie came from.
Mm-hmm.
all your railroad robber barons, your steel robber barons, they got paid on the Civil War. Again, war is a racket.
Yeah.
General Butler, that little book applies to all of America. Look at what Eisenhower told us about the military-industrial complex. All of this is haunting us, and all of it is about America wanting power. It first wanted power by killing off all the Indians and enslaving black people and putting white people in a state of serfdom where they didn't know they were slaves because at least they could say, at least I ain't black. Now they can't.
Now, when you say
it don't matter.
When you say America has done this, what driving force do you think is behind this?
Of course,
is it European?
Our government is it European? Yeah,
I was going to say European colonialism.
Run our government.
I'm just curious. Like you talk about America and this shadowy force behind it. What is that force? I mean,
there's nothing shadowy. It's those who came here and conquered. I mean, if you want to say it's the European powers, okay. But when they first got here, they used Welsh and Cornish and Irishmen as chattel.
But those people are dead now. So what is the...
Like their legacy doesn't continue.
That's what I'm asking is what is carrying on their legacy? What is the driving force behind that is keeping this horrific ideology going?
The government of the United States of America and the corporations that control it.
I don't know how else to rephrase my question.
The families continue, right? Like just because the people who did whatever horrors are dead doesn't mean that their sons or daughters or granddaughters or grandsons or whatever aren't carrying on the legacy of power, right? Like, that's handed down generations.
We still have Nazis in this country. We have still, believe it or not, saw a documentary the other night. They have a neo-Nazi issue in Israel, of all places. So once you start a stupid idea, somebody's going to pick it up forever. Nothing ever dies, because like they say, nothing ever dies on the internet. Nothing ever dies in the ether either.
Kirby, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. And hopefully we can change things on into the future. And hopefully these old ideas will die. I mean, even though chattel slavery is gone for the most part in most all of the world at this point.
Well, they did a good job. The American government did a good job of convincing people that they had eliminated slavery, but they didn't.
They didn't, yeah. They just changed forms. So you want to comment, you're welcome to 603-283-6160. We've got plenty of other things to discuss here tonight. And if you want to weigh in on this Enrique Tarrio undercover informant, he says he doesn't remember it, but the court documents presumably aren't lying about him. 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever you want here as well and take control of the airwaves on Free Talk Live. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at baenbooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. D-I-V-I project.org.
I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and the number here, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio with you tonight, you've got Ian,
Bonnie,
and Aria.
And, of course, you can bring up whatever is on your mind. We will go back to the news. Coming up here, the insurrectionist next door. More paranoia-stoking so-called news articles out there. We'll share that with you. But let's go first to your calls and your thoughts. He is Bad Slave on the line in New Hampshire. Bad Slave, you're on Free Talk Live.
Thank you very much,
Yes,
Ian. Welcome, Bonnie. Nice to see you on the panel here. And Aria, I am happy that I got through. And I
what did you want to share tonight?
Say, it occurs to me that Enrico Terrio,
the leader of the Proud Boys.
He may. I mean, I don't trust the police. Especially the FBI, and I can imagine them playing a game. If you're supposedly a confidential informant, aren't you supposed to be a good guy in the light of law enforcement?
What do you mean by that? A good guy?
Of course.
He's doing by law enforcement. He's doing their bidding. So by their perspective, he's a good guy. From our perspective, he's a terrible human being because he's leading other peaceful people into jail cells on behest of the law enforcement. But I'm sure law enforcement would say Enrique Tarrio is a good guy because he did what we said, what we told him to.
But I think
I don't know what you just did, but it sounds like you started talking through a pillow.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Let me get a little closer.
You're fine now. Go ahead.
Great. It occurs to me that a guy, standing up to become the leader, it's not a person that was engaged in this confidential informant activity.
The court documents seem to suggest otherwise.
There could be another Enrico Terrio.
But Bonnie, didn't they talk to his attorney?
Yeah, they even talked to his attorney recently.
Yeah, this isn't. Reuters doesn't generally just go to press with some wild-haired, theory. I mean, they do some research on this, Are you saying you find it hard to believe that this guy's an informant because he's the leader of some organization?
I think the media in general is getting sloppier and sloppier, okay, including Reuters and AP and any of the other aggregators. What we're getting as message in our news and what have you, I think is just at the bottom of the barrel nowadays.
You don't believe this report at all, basically. You're just completely dismissing everything that's been said.
Well, I don't know.
Well, you don't know. Because you've done no research and you've not looked into anything at all.
I'm curious, Bad Slave, what is your position on the Proud Boys as an organization?
I think that they're mostly harmless.
Aren't they out there like fighting people in the streets? I mean, by definition, that's not harmless.
They look for people that the others that create first blood, I guess.
What do you think about their philosophies?
What's that?
What do you think about their philosophies?
It's not. I don't think it's completely unreasonable.
Well, that's why you don't believe the story,
right? When you say it's completely unreasonable, what are you saying you don't believe is completely unreasonable?
Well, he said it's not completely unreasonable.
I know, but we're not saying. You said their philosophies, but you didn't identify which philosophies. So I'm asking him which philosophies are not completely unreasonable.
I think that there exists in the world women who are happy to be housewives.
Sure, but they don't need to be told to do that if that's what they want to do.
No, but the philosophy of a positive nature of the Western world, I agree with. I think that America rising up in the colonies and and fighting off the Brits was a good thing. Establishing individual liberty as a basis, a principle to adhere to. Those are all good things, and
yes, but
I
Proud Boys.
That's part of what the Proud Boys engage in.
They're well beyond that, and there's no link whatsoever between kicking out the British and their men's rights activism today.
Define that well beyond.
What?
He said define well beyond.
Well, I mean, they're not just sitting there saying, hey, we're proud that the American colonies revolted. They're like, oh, no, women should also stay in the kitchen and have our babies. Those two things are not related. I don't know how you could...
I doubt that there would be any involuntary arrangement with women that would...
Now, how do you know? I mean, have you actually gone to Proud Boys meetings?
Well, because I've actually listened to McGinnis.
This is why
no longer a Proud Boy.
This is why you don't believe that Terrio was an informant, because you at least loosely support their ideas.
So you're like a would you describe yourself as a Proud Boy?
No.
Okay. Where do you differ?
A Proud Boy sympathizer?
Where do you differ from them?
I do not, ever want to see a man, attempt to dominate women don't want to be dominated.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? This is, and I think the potential for that in their philosophy is probably stronger than I would like.
Okay. But you don't buy.
You know what I mean?
You don't buy that the leader of a activist organization could possibly be a federal informant.
Well, I'm not going to say that it's impossible.
Okay.
I'm just going to say that it's less probable than maybe not.
Why is
don't
it
know.
less probable? Why isn't it completely plausible? And thank you for the call tonight, Slave.
He just doesn't want to believe it.
Yeah. Why isn't it completely plausible that this Enrique Tarrio has been working for the federal government since 2012 and has continued to be an undercover informant for the federal government to the point where he was able to work his way into the highest levels of the Proud Boys organization by whatever means? I mean, unless he was one of the founders or whatever. Somehow he got to the top of the Proud Boys, and that he's been feeding them information the entire time. Why is that so hard to believe?
I would believe that they all worked for the government.
Well, I mean,
I would tend to agree with that.
It's hard to believe that all of them do, because obviously the whole point of organizations like this is to bring non-federal agents in and try to convince them to do things that they otherwise wouldn't have done. You know, like bomb a thing or, kill a thing or whatever. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160, or, sell some drugs or whatever other things they can arrest these guys for.
Let's do crime together.
There's more coming up.
Moose is the German Shepherd, now 11, and he's been an amazing dog. Moose is so active and so alert and hasn't had any kind of health problems at all. He has a beautiful coat, and at 11, he'll still run and chase the ball. He has been on Dynavite since he's a puppy.
Dynavite for life.
Because if they're getting all their vitamins, micronutrients, microbials from the beginning, then you're not going to run into the problems associated with the grass, pollen, dust, dirt, fleas, ticks, you name it, and the itching and shedding down the road. DINOVITE.com. We tell anybody that has a dog, if there was something that you could do right from the beginning so that you don't have expensive veterinary bills, why would you not do it? Get the Dynavite.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dynavite from DINOVITE.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
If you're looking for work, the person you are applying to is probably so swamped with applicants that he or she is tough to reach. So call early in the day, before 8 a.m., before the palace guards arrive. You'll need your prospect's direct number, and here's a sneaky way to get it. Suppose the company's main number is 555-5000. You should call 555-5012. When someone says, "Good morning, Pam Johnson," you should innocently say, "Oops, somebody here must have written this down wrong. I was calling for Tom Frederick. What's his direct number?" If the very next thing you hear isn't Pam giving you Tom's number, it may be, "Good morning, Tom Frederick." For more tips for job seekers and getting better results in all your day-to-day communication, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. We got time for you. If you want to join the show, you can do that. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Bonnie.
And Aria.
All right. You can, of course, join us here and bring up anything that you want to discuss. We will go back to your phone calls and thoughts. We go first to Adrian in South Carolina. Adrian, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Hey, Ian. I think you guys are a little hard on the last caller, and here's why. We're talking about the Proud Boys leader, okay, Enrique Tarrio.
Yeah.
And we're looking at his past, where in 2013 he was arrested and he was undercover, blah, 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 blah.
Right. He snitched and set up a bunch of peaceful people so they could go to federal prison. I mean, that's not a blah, blah, blah. That's a serious violation.
That's not something we can promote, not as libertarians and voluntarists. We cannot promote that. We cannot promote working with the police for any reason.
I agree entirely.
I'm a firm believer in that.
When I had property damaged and stolen last year, I never once involved the police because I don't want to work with police.
I'm not going to say that there isn't a time where somebody shouldn't work with the police. I think that if they're conducting a murder investigation or they're conducting a rape investigation or something where there's an actual real violent criminal out there on the loose, I don't have any problem with somebody saying, "Hey, you're looking for this guy in this car, and he passed by my house today," or whatever. Right?
I would agree with that assessment. But the odds of me encountering or having any sort of information about a rapist or a murderer are so astronomically low that I don't consider it a realistic possibility.
No doubt, but I'm just saying there are some circumstances.
Why are we holding Enrique Tarrio's past against him when we look at Barry Cooper?
Look at who?
Whose biggest claim to fame is how to make money selling drugs, and he used to be a police officer who trained canines.
Well, Barry Cooper was doing bad things. You're referring to Barry Cooper from NeverGetBusted.com, and Barry Cooper was a cop, and then he decided to join the side of good and has been trying to make things as right as he can by doing good works after he left the police. So he's not an undercover officer anymore. He's not doing bad things anymore. He has actually changed his life. Now, has Tarrio changed his ways? It's been less than a decade.
And the Proud Boys isn't an anti-police organization. The Proud Boys is statist. They just want the state to do what they want.
That's a good point.
Well, we're not sure exactly what Enrique Tarrio is doing, except leading an organization like the Proud Boys, which I'm not a big fan of the Proud Boys, to be honest with you. I'm a voluntarist minister.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at somebody like Enrique Tarrio and go, "Oh yeah, man, I want to stand by his side." But there might be a time where he might be doing something that I agree with, and I would join him. Armed.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe so, but just know that he's a snitch. I mean, if you want to work with this guy, know that his history is of having been a snitch. Know that when know that when the pressure was on, this guy cracked and he turned on his own people. That's what you need to know.
And when the pressure wasn't on and he just wanted to he did it at his own risk.
Well, yeah, and that's what we don't know. Like, why did this guy keep doing things? Why did he go do things at his own risk? Who was he trying to impress within the federal government? There's something to this story that we don't know. That's just we're seeing the tip of the iceberg.
It's possible that he did what that cop you mentioned did. Only this guy Terrio went the other direction. It's like, oh, I got busted, and you know what? You're right. All of that stuff I was doing was wrong. I need to go out there and find all of these people who are doing that wrong thing and turn them in.
Yeah, and then form an organization to attract a bunch of right-wing people that are, likely to use violence and gin up more violence.
I tend to view the two things as largely unrelated, though.
Go ahead, Adrian.
We can't know his mind. That's the problem, is that, we can't trust him because he was a former informant, or we can't trust Barry Cooper because he was a former cop.
Well, there's no reason not to trust Barry Cooper because he's turned to the side of good and has had no other, he's been anti-war on drugs for the last 15 years, at least of his life, has produced multiple videos proving that. He put his own family and his freedom on the line to create Cop Busters, which was an undercover police sting operation, which busted busted corrupt cops down in Texas. They hated him so much for what he did. They came after his kids, tried to take his kids from him. He had to flee the United States to move to Mexico, where he currently is still to this day. I mean, I would trust Barry Cooper.
But what about in Barry Cooper's third year? How would we feel about him in his third year?
Has Terrio done anything that we would support ideologically, though?
What I'm saying is, what if...
Because he's not in his first day of trying to right his wrongs, much less the third year. Yes.
Yeah, he's not saying he's sorry. He's denying he was involved.
He is not out there trying to right the wrongs of the people that he turned in for human smuggling.
Right. Presumably,
or pharmaceutical fraud.
Presumably, he's still working in the same area, still doing favors for the federal government because he seems to like it. Or at least he did for some number of years of his life, which wasn't that long ago.
At the very least, he's not out there making, hey, this is how to commit pharmaceutical fraud and actually get away with it videos.
Right.
Well, as a voluntarist, I can't look at him and say he did, pharmaceutical fraud, and that's such a bad thing to say about him. I mean,
I don't view it as a bad thing at all.
Anarchist.
We're not saying that he did anything bad with the pharmaceutical fraud. He wasn't alleged to have actually harmed people. Pharmaceutical fraud is, from what I understand, the selling of pharmaceuticals and profiting from them without, going through the official channels, basically.
It was purchased insulin or something like that for diabetes, and then they were rebranding it and selling it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's somewhat fraudulent if they are saying that it is this brand. I get that, but again, that all has to do with intellectual property more than anything else.
And that's agorist, which I agree with as well.
Yeah, but then he turned against those people and put them in prison.
And that was a very bad thing for him to do.
And why doesn't he apologize for it?
Catch up to him right now.
Why doesn't he say he's sorry? Instead, he's saying, oh, I don't remember, I don't recall.
And you're saying, why don't we trust this guy?
What I'm saying is that I do a Google search for Proud Boys leader, and my first 3 top stories on Google search are from Reuters, NBC, and Associated Press, talking about how he was an undercover informant.
That's because it's breaking news.
Is right.
That's how Google searches work.
That helps their cause.
And it helps whose cause? It helps whose cause?
It helps the cause of the government.
How?
To take down the leader of the Proud Boys.
Proud Boys is not anti-government. They just want, Trump to be their leader.
Yep.
I understand that. And the Proud Boys have some respect from some anarchists that I've seen.
Are you saying you think the government threw their informant under the bus here?
I think that's a possibility because you can't ever say it's not without proof.
Well, obviously we don't have proof.
He's still an informant, though.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know why we should give an informant the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, to hell with him. Obviously, we don't know for sure what's going on here. But if he is or was an informant, and if he still is an informant, then it's the government's interest to keep him in his position, to keep him right where he is, doing whatever it is that he's doing, setting people up, suggesting things to people, or whatever role they've got him in there. So what it sounds like is what happened here is that somebody on the outside, somebody in the news media, uncovered this information and went public with it. Somebody else who was likely not with the government went public with this because they just outed their undercover agent. They just outed their informant in the Proud Boys.
So the question then is, why did they do that?
Well, that's a great question.
Because he was a part of the Capitol Hill riots, which I'm putting in parentheses, by the way.
He wasn't in D.C. at the time. He was arrested like 2 days before the riots because...
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about that.
Why was he arrested?
Yeah, what was he arrested for? Do you recall? 603-283-6160. Adrian, thank you for the call tonight. I do appreciate hearing from you. 603-283-6160. It doesn't make sense that the government would sacrifice their own guy that they got to get up
to gain nothing from it
to the highest levels of this organization. We're coming up here. This is Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
I was watching some videos of you and your crew of cronies on YouTube, and I was shocked at what I saw.
What did you see that was so shocking?
Degenerates that were harassing members of your community. I saw you chasing around some traffic lady, parking violation.
The parking attendants, yeah. Okay, so you saw some footage from Robin Hood of Keene where...
There's a whole bunch of that footage out there, and I can assure you didn't see me.
That wasn't really a Free Talk Live thing.
Incorrect.
All right, you got me. You got me. Lay it on me, prosecutor. What'd you see?
Incorrect. I would like you to address, are you guys receiving government benefits while you guys are doing this? I think you are.
No.
What would the benefit be?
Incorrect! Incorrect, sir!
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up in any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live, and you're invited here if you want to join us. The number is 603-283-6160. Freedom's Phoenix is a liberty-oriented news aggregation site. If you want the newest and freshest stories and perspectives on current events, even though or from those who value liberty, freedomsphoenix.com has them. Their daily dispatch is the best way to stay up to date on science, technology, historical findings, liberty news, government overspending, and the rise of the police state. It's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. That's freedomsphoenix.com. And also I want to say thanks to RV Chris, who is a Free Talk Live Gold amplifier, meaning that RV Chris contributes $10 a month to the AMP program, which helps us out because it makes it so we can more effectively advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live, get Free Talk Live on more radio stations, as we've done recently. We're up to 190 stations now, so thank you to RV Chris and all of our other amplifiers to make who make that possible. Again, amp.freetalklive.com is where you can go. You can sign up with credit card, debit card, PayPal, and Bitcoin BTC. And you get some cool perks, you get some benefits, and you help us out.
You can't do BCH?
No, I'm afraid not. It would take some extra programming to make that possible, and we just don't have people like banging on our door saying, "Let me give you my cryptocurrency." So it costs a lot of money to get the BTC thing set up. It probably wouldn't cost as much to get BCH implemented, but
sure,
I'd have to hire a programmer to like look at the system. And Drupal is just so terrible anyway. It's like I'd rather just abandon it.
If someone wants to, they can contact one of us. And I'm sure we could make that happen.
Yeah, if you just want to contact me directly, then we can make that happen for you. That's no problem. All right, so let's go to David. He's in Michigan. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, David. David?
Well, thank you very much for, I speak on behalf of others out there. Okay. I know I'm not alone. We do appreciate your show, Ian, and, of course, our mugs that are up. Let me just talk about street crime.
Okay.
Join a gang. If you diss them, it's no different than so-called Proud Boys. What do you know about the Boogaloo Boys?
I know things about the Boogaloo Boys.
I don't know anything about them.
I actually know some Boogaloo Boys. My roommate is a Boogaloo Boy, and the guys across the street are Boogaloo Boys.
I hung out with them at Fork Fest, and I've never felt safer in my life.
Yeah, that's right. There was a whole Boogaloo party at Fork Fest.
It was fantastic.
We were hanging out at. It was the most well-armed party I think I've ever been to, and I've been to a few of those.
And it was probably the safest place in the world at that exact moment.
At least the safest place in northern New Hampshire at that moment. I mean, New Hampshire's pretty well armed, but you know, I mean, the Boogaloo guys are for the most part libertarians, at least according to the ones that showed up at the protest last weekend. I think it was, or 2 weekends ago, or whenever it was. There was 50 statewide protests that happened, and I went to the one that happened in Concord, and there were 5 Boogaloo Boys that showed up. Very small contingent.
Sure.
Which, of course, why would they all show up?
But they were in Hawaiian shirts, I assume.
Most of them, I think, were in Hawaiian shirts. They had their Boogaloo flags.
Are they in competition? Are they in competition or real armed warfare, say, against Antifa or the other organization you said a couple
No, they don't go out
calls ago?
They don't go out and fight people. They are just prepared for what they think is impending.
Right. They think there's going to be some sort of civil unrest that's coming. The S will hit the fan, and they want to be prepared with, you know, plenty of rations and plenty of arms to get through whatever is going to happen there. But they do tend to be libertarian. The guys that were at this event were straight up libertarians. They were talking about the non-aggression principle. There's an interesting video over at freekeen.com that Vincent made of the event where you can listen to these guys talking about freedom and what it means to them. And it wasn't just the New Hampshire guys. When we were looking at some of the reports on the Boogaloo protests that happened in other places, they all had very similar, very libertarian talking points, and they were all kind of staying to those talking points.
Do they believe in the United States Constitution?
I don't know.
Do they believe it exists? Or do they support it as a document?
Yeah, believe in it as a way to, like, I'm a Patriot Marine, well, very inactive reserve, but believe in the system.
I would say probably not.
I would say that from what they were saying, that they are not fans of the system, that they don't like it very much at all, but they understand that they're probably not going to be able to change the system, so they're just preparing for the worst when the system collapses or whatever it is that's going on. When I did talk to them about secession or New Hampshire declaring independence from the United States, they didn't seem like they thought that was it was the time for that idea, that they hadn't really considered it very much. So I did give them some information about that because I think it is absolutely time to consider those things. David, thank you for the call tonight. I appreciate it. The number here is 603-283-6160. But it was refreshing that these Boogaloo boys were very libertarian guys.
The media loves calling them alt-right.
Yeah.
But I have yet to meet. I'm not saying they don't exist. And I'm in New Hampshire, which is sort of libertarian anyway. So any Boog boys I'm going to meet are probably going to be libertarians. But I have still yet to meet an alt-right Boog boy.
They
call themselves the Proud Boys.
You're saying the alt-righters call themselves Proud Boys.
Yes, the alt-right.
Not the Boogaloo boys.
The alt-right equivalent of the Boogaloo boys would be the Proud Boys. They go out and they look for fights.
But that's not the equivalent of the Boogaloo, because the Boogaloo's not going out looking for fights. They're just preparing
the Boogaloo isn't. The Boog boys aren't alt-right.
That's right. Now, they did say the supermajority of them are libertarians, so there may be some Boogaloo boys who aren't libertarians, but from what they were saying, they definitely are libertarian guys. And they did say there are some Boogaloo gals as well, so it's not a males only organization. But of course, if there are 10 or 20 times their number, because again only 5 of them showed up. If there's hundreds of times their number in New Hampshire, obviously they don't all want to come out because you don't want to tip your hand.
It's also cold.
Well, it is cold, but you know the government was watching this, right? Like there was a drone in the sky. There were multiple.
Really?
Oh yeah. They sent the drone up at the governor's house multiple times. Anywhere there's a group of protests, the drone is around. The state police drone.
Paranoid much?
Yeah. So they sent the drone up, and they wanted to see what was going on with this protest. They wanted to see who was going to show up. But it was just a handful of guys and then a handful of other libertarians that kind of came. Otherwise, it was all media. There were more media people there than there were Boogaloo guys, and as many media people as there were cops around. So it was mostly media and police at this particular event. It was very interesting, sort of the dynamics of it. But I think the media wanted these Boogaloo boys to be Proud Boys. They wanted them to be alt-right. They wanted them to be, pro-male. They wanted them to be, these right-wing racists or something like that. But they weren't any of those things. These were like completely reasonable, well-spoken, pro-liberty guys, and they did not meet any of the preconceived notions that the media had that day.
Also, a lot of like Boogaloo type people avoided going to those protests because they were like supposedly like a honeypot.
That's true.
There's a good chance that they were absolutely a honeypot. And it's still not clear who it was that was in charge of organizing those things. Let's go quickly. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that using that Boogaloo Boys as a model, simple insurance policy, if you had a group of people that did nothing more than socialize and discuss preparation and self-defense and no political discussion whatsoever, it would be an insurance policy against ever being completely, in the true sense of the word, enslaved by a government. If you simply did what they're doing, you wouldn't even have to discuss any politics. If it just continued to grow, you'd have, if anybody ever attacked you, people would be able to defend against it without ever doing anything more than prep for eating and shelter and self-defense.
Thank you for the call tonight. Let's go to another unscreened caller. You're on Free Talk Live.
How's it going there, fellas?
Hey, go quick.
Well, I just wanted to say that you were talking about secession earlier,
yes,
and I'm a libertarian. I've been one since I was in high school. I'm 40 now, and I feel that if we don't take it to the state first and get things going there and get people motivated at a leadership level, I mean, it's not ever going to work as far as taking back the country, and we absolutely need to be able to do that.
Well, there's no way you're going to be able to take back the country.
I don't want to take back the country. I want the country to leave me alone.
Right. It's lost. I mean, there's no chance. Even if you really love the idea of the United States, you got to get to the point where you have to admit it didn't work out. It's not working out, and it's not going to work out. People are not going to come together. They're not going to want to build this thing, whatever, with other, different-minded people. They're not going to do it. They cannot get along. It's time to separate. It's time to end this experiment. It's been an absolute, it was good in some ways in that for a while there was somewhat of a free market or a freer market, and there was a lot of wealth that was created for the people here. There's no doubt our lifestyles are pretty easy living compared to a lot of the rest of the world, but it's still a failed experiment, and it's time that we look at declaring independence. And I think that whether it's Texas or California or Vermont or New Hampshire, somebody's got to say goodbye first, and then we'll see the dominoes start to fall. We'll see you tomorrow night, freetalklive.com. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM.